My husband is a man who has been reborn. Help? My lady just wants to survive. Lately, I've noticed something strange about my husband. He's been far too kind to me that I'm not being ungrateful. Let me explain. Before all this, he had no intention of marrying me. He outright rejected the imperial decree my brother sent to his estate and stormed off in a huff. Spoiler: he failed to escape. On our wedding day, he scowled at me and said, "I, Lu Lizhang, will never touch you in this lifetime." That also failed, because I drugged him. The next morning, he called me wanton, shameless, and accused me of ruining his innocence. That last night, I did something I thought he would never, ever forgive. But this morning, he sat by my bedside and said, "Chung Chung, take your medicine. 01 poison. It's definitely poison." But seeing him this early in the morning, dressed in white, impossibly handsome, I swallowed my tears and drank. "Zhonglang, this is the first time you've ever fed me medicine." He froze. For some reason, a flicker of pain crossed his eyes. He turned his head slightly away. "Chungcheng, don't call me Zhonglang." My eyes greedily drank in his beauty, and I nodded eagerly. Husband. So what if it's poison? My princess estate has a soul-reviving pill gifted by His Majesty. Even if Lu Lizhang fed me something lethal, as long as I'm still breathing, it can drag me back from the underworld. That I sat in bed, patient, waiting and waiting, and nothing happened. My stomach didn't hurt, my head didn't spin. That I stared at him, dumbfounded. That wasn't poison. Why would it be poison, Chungcheng? He frowned slightly, then paused, his voice softening. "Did you think it was? And you still drank it?" "It was the first time you ever fed me medicine." I looked at him sheepishly. Whatever it was, I had to drink it. Then I added, deadpan, "Well, except shit." Normally, Lu Lizhang would have scolded me for being vulgar, for having no manners. But this time, I waited, and waited, and he said nothing. That I looked up. His gaze seemed fixed on something far away. That I tugged at his sleeve. He blinked back to the present. Then he said something that made me question my hearing. "Chung, in this lifetime, I won't let you down again." What? Is this really Lu Lizhang? In shock, I whipped my head toward him, but his eyes were deep as the sea as he looked down at me, deadly serious. Asterisk in this lifetime? What does that even mean? Asterisk, but wow, Lu Lizhang really is gorgeous. Aside from that one time he swore he'd never marry me, I've never seen him look so solemn. That I grinned like an idiot. "Deal." He seemed relieved. He helped me sit up slowly, guiding me gently. "Let's go, Chungcheng. Get changed, we're going to see His Majesty." 02 sitting in the carriage, I thought bitterly. Bai Xinlu. He's buttering me up for Bai Xinlu. Bai Xinlu, the little girl he grew up with. 4th rank official's daughter. When Lu Lizhang was forced to marry me, she knelt crying in front of him, begging to be his concubine, just so she could stay by his side forever. Now her father was disgraced. She was a criminal's daughter. Why bring me to see my brother, the emperor? The answer was obvious. He wanted leniency for Bai Xinlu. I turned to look at Lu Lizhang. Today he wore a noble purple robe. Crane motifs climbed his chest, drawing the eye to his pale throat. Pearl-bordered roundels adorned his sleeves, exuding an unexpected, alluring nonchalance. God, he's beautiful. Asterisk, the left chancellor captivates with effortless charm. Asterisk, that folks saying isn't an exaggeration. He must have felt my gaze because he arched an elegant brow and smiled. "What's wrong?" Nothing. I waved dismissively. "Really good. It's just that, husband, you're so gentle it's unsettling." Before this, Lu Lizhang hated me so much he wouldn't even share a carriage. If he did, he'd change clothes the moment we arrived, as if to scrub away the memory. Now he seemed to have forgotten his principles. Was it because of last night? Had I gone so overboard that I drove him crazy? Or was he really willing to do all this just for Bai Xinlu? Before I could dwell, the carriage suddenly lurched to a halt. I went flying forward. But, instead of hitting the carriage wall, a hand gently caught my head. His breath ghosted over my face. Chung Chung. Are you okay? His long lashes brushed against my skin, almost tickling their way into my heart. Asterisk, how could I be not okay? Asterisk, I said solemnly. No, I'm not okay, that I need my husband's arms to be okay. Did the heavens hear me? Lu Lizhang actually laughed. On any other day, he would have slapped me away or chilled me with an icy grunt. But today he scooped me up and pressed his nose against mine. Then, dear wife, today let your husband hold you this way. And I swear, if a hand hadn't yanked open the carriage curtain, I would have stayed there forever. 03 The one who opened that curtain was Lady Anyang. This insufferable git, my sworn rival, whose father, my imperial uncle, is a perfectly upright and splendid man, but she was born a brat just to torment me. Predictably, as soon as she saw me draped around Lu Lizhang's neck, she screeched, Gu Chung, have you no shame at all? Of course I have shame. I lay smugly in his arms, arching my eyebrows at her. I'm embracing my legal husband. We're an above-board, loving couple, birds of a feather, kindred spirits, partners in crime. What business is it of yours, you meddling witch? Anyang stamped her foot and shrieked at Lu Lizhang. Chancellor, look at her. Still holding me without any sign of letting go, Lu Lizhang answered lazily. My wife is right. Wife? He called me wife. Mesmerized, I stared at his side profile. Those deep black eyes, that straight nose, those soft lips curved with a delicate invitation. But then those lips formed a quiet, slow rebuke. Lady Anyang, you are being discourteous. Anyang's glare instantly reddened. She stammered in disbelief. Lord Chancellor, you're blaming me? Truth be told, Anyang isn't much, but her upright father had earned Lu Lizhang's face-saving respect, so for as long as I could remember, he'd never exchanged sharp words with her. Anyang and I had pined over him since childhood. Years of jealousy and rivalry, and Lu Lizhang always took her side, not mine. Watching her on the verge of turning into a quivering wreck on the street, I helpfully told her maid, no saving her. Bury her where she stands. Anyang shot me a murderous glare before turning to Lu Lizhang with red-rimmed eyes. Knowing she was beaten, she snarled finally, Gu Chung, you vixen, don't be so smug. Do you even know what day it is today? Have a good look at what you're wearing. Just wait. You're walking to your death in that get-up. Today? What day is today? 04 I leaned out to look. The palace front was packed with carriages from every official household. Noble women in formal attire descended gracefully. Foreign envoys arrived on all sorts of strange mounts, dressed in colorful ceremonial robes. Even that shrill harpy Anyang had worn her proper gold-threaded county uniform. The Empress Dowager returns to the palace. All nations come to pay tribute. Asterisk, the Empress Dowager returns. The grand diplomatic reception. Asterisk, of all things, how could I have spaced on that? And what had I worn? A peach-pink gown with plum blossom embroidery, paired with a scandalous bare-shouldered, pink and gold embroidered skirt that screamed look at me when I left. I thought I looked divine, that if my hidebound mother, the Empress, saw me like this, she'd skin me alive. That I looked beseechingly at Lu Lizhang. Lulu, why didn't you warn me when we left? He gave an unperturbed kiss to my hair. Chung Chung can wear whatever she likes. Your husband didn't want to constrain you. His eyes were unbearably gentle, without a trace of worry. Asterisk, right. Asterisk, I'd thought Lu Lizhang had changed. But this? If I became a laughingstock today, it would make it all the easier for him to divorce me. wouldn't it? I'm not afraid of being a joke. My reputation was already terrible. But as I gazed into his eyes, searching for my own reflection, I realized that after today, I might never see him again. Then his voice whispered softly in my ear. However, your husband has brought you another set of clothes. How about Chongqing changes first, then we go up? 05 Ever since I was little, I've been afraid of the Empress Dowager, my brother. The current emperor, and I are not her children. Our mother was father's most beloved consort in my memory. She was gentle and also a bit improper. But she passed away early. The Empress Dowager, on the other hand, was born a proper noble lady, the legitimate daughter of a former Right Chancellor, and has been obsessed with ritual and propriety since childhood. Since childhood, I was raised in a carefree manner by my mother, and later sent away from the palace to study under Abbess Jinghui, at Qingyu Temple for a few years. Abbess Jinghui was detached and believed that human nature shouldn't be suppressed, so she let me run wild in the mountains for years. When I returned to the palace and appeared before the Grand Empress Dowager, I'd already been scolded many times for being utterly disgraceful. So when I stood before her, my legs still went a little weak. The Grand Empress Dowager walked slowly from the inner hall, leaning on the arm of her appointed eunuch Li Fuxia. As she passed me, she paused briefly. Today, you seem to have learned some manners. A trace of satisfaction finally crossed her face as she moved off with Li Fuxia. It seems marrying the left chancellor has improved you somewhat. From across the crowd, I spotted Anyang glaring at me again. In high spirits, I made a face at her, which infuriated Anyang so much that she stamped her foot, and likely landed right on the toes of the noble lady beside her. That beautiful sister let out a yelp of pain that echoed round and round the silent hall. The Grand Empress Dowager turned her head slightly, frowning. Anyang, causing trouble again. Your elder sister has improved. How can you still be so reckless? Anyang's eyes reddened with fury, but she didn't dare say anything more. She only bit her lip and replied, Yes, Your Highness. I have to admit, I love seeing Anyang angry. She's infuriated me countless times since we were little. Every time I try to strike back, she'd shriek, You're the older sister, you're the older sister. You're the older sister. What kind of ridiculous rule makes the elder always yield to the younger? When I have children, I'll never do that. But unfortunately, my imperial father never had such an epiphany, so I was always forced to give in to this little monster who was only 1 year younger. Behind me, I heard Lu Lizhang chuckle softly. My dear, what's making you bloom like a lovely flower? Bloom like a flower, bloom like a flower. I grinned foolishly. Not at all, not as lovely as you, Lulu. He paused, then burst out laughing. Left Chancellor, what's so amusing? By now all the officials had assembled and the formalities were done. The atmosphere in the hall had relaxed a little. My imperial brother lounged on his dragon throne. Lu Lizhang's expression didn't change. This humble servant was merely sharing a joke with his wife. Oh, is that so? My imperial brother sat up with interest, then frowned. But I have heard that last night the left chancellor's residence was thrown into chaos. Feuds raging until midnight. Is it true? Imperial brother, I'm begging you. Just shut up and stop trying to help me in the worst possible way. I stepped forward, about to interrupt, and explain, mostly to interrupt, when a hand reached from behind me. It caught my wrist. The hand held me steadily, the fingers elegantly shaped, a faint trace of jade bones visible. Its owner pulled me behind him, stepped forward, gave a deep bow, then raised his head and spoke solemnly. Your Majesty, the fault is entirely this humble servant's lack of forethought. It has nothing to do with Chongqing. From now on, This servant will never leave nor abandon Changcheng, and will stay by her side forever. 06 The great hall fell silent, not a whisper. After all, the left chancellor admitting fault. That was truly a first in that silence. My imperial brother shot me a meaningful glance that in it I read. Well done, Gu Cheng, that you've actually tamed the left chancellor. I sent one back, saying, of course, who do you think I am? But when and how exactly did I win Lu Lizhang over? Was it the peach-red gossamer outfit I wore today? No. He's been like this since I opened my eyes. Or was it when I slapped his white moonlight, Baixin Lu? No. If he hadn't strangled me today, I'd count myself lucky. Could it have been what I said this morning while gulping down that herbal medicine? But it felt like he was already treating me well before I drank it. I racked my brains and couldn't figure it out. Then I felt Lu Lizhang release my wrist and interlace his fingers with mine, his voice ringing out clearly beside my ear. Your Majesty. This humble servant finds Princess Songming profoundly affectionate and virtuous. I am unworthy of such favor. I therefore dare to beg a boon of your Majesty. My imperial brother was momentarily taken aback. He glanced at me, then leaned forward. What does the left chancellor desire? Sarcasm. That was pure sarcasm just now. This time, he's definitely asking for a divorce decree. That I squeezed my eyes shut tight and only heard Lu Lizhang. Each word crisp and decisive, state. I beseech your Majesty to grant this servant a jade staff. 07 My head was still buzzing when we walked out of the palace gates in the Great Cheng dynasty. Even a princess consort whose husband held high rank was allowed to take concubines. For example, in the previous dynasty, General Sima had achieved brilliant military feats and was fiercely loyal. Even though he married my aunt, Princess Chang'an, he still took 2 concubines and a secondary wife. But if the emperor granted a jade staff, then for the rest of that husband's life, he would have no right to take a concubine. As I walked along, I stared blankly at Lu Lizhang and accidentally smacked into a pillar, yelping in pain. Lu Lizhang grasped my hand with concern. Cheng, does it hurt? Grimacing, I clutched my head. Damn, so it's not a dream after all, he chuckled softly. Why would it be a dream? To be honest, calling it a dream undersells it. I'd never dare conjure such a wonderful dream. I can't even imagine these things in my dreams. I asked him cautiously. Lulu, are you running a fever? Do you even know what you just did? He looked at me, helpless. Cheng, does your husband seem lacking in brains? To be honest, a little. He saw my doubt and pressed a hand to his forehead. Cheng, am I really that unworthy of your trust? I muttered, completely. He paused, then let out a rueful laugh. Fine, find out it's all my fault. In the future, I'll do plenty of good deeds until you start believing me. Good heavens, that if this is a dream, just let me die right here in it. I pressed my palms together and prayed to the sky, leaving Lu Lizhang completely baffled. Just as the atmosphere was perfect, an obnoxious voice cut in at the worst possible moment. Stop, Lu Lizhang. Well, speak of the devil. I'm so good at summoning people. I should have prayed for the god of wealth instead. The man I'd just mentioned, General Sima's son, young General Sima Chao, came storming up from behind. Furious, he brandished a sword, still in its scabbard, and without even drawing it, pointed it at Lu Lizhang, shouting, Lu Lizhang, halt! Have you utterly forgotten Baixin Lu? 08, I kindly reminded him. Big brother, you're pointing the scabbard, and we never moved. We stopped long ago. Shut up, ugly freak, he snarled, glaring at me. Now I can't take that. Call me stupid, fine, but ugly. Me? I'm this beautiful, and he calls me ugly? Before my curses could fly, Sima Chao had already turned back to Lu Lizhang. Baixin Lu has faced death time and again for you, only begging you for a concubine's place. His eyes landed on our clasped hands, nearly splitting with rage. And you actually went and begged for a jade staff for this woman. Are you even a man? You piece of shit. I stepped forward, hands on my hips, and yelled, whether my husband's a man is something I know best. What? Do you want to test him yourself? He stared at me in disbelief. Crude country bumpkin. Behind me, Lu Lizhang couldn't help bursting into laughter. Sima Chao glared at Lu Lizhang in shock, bitterly disappointed. Baixin Lu is now staying at my manor. Yesterday she returned utterly heartbroken, and today she's dangerously ill. If you have any conscience, come and take her home. I was ready to fire back, but Lu Lizhang grabbed my hand, turned to Sima Chao, and said smoothly, my affairs, General Sima, require no trouble on your part. As for Miss Bai, she has nothing whatsoever to do with me. I should have known you were this kind of shameless scoundrel. Sima Chao's eyes blazed. Poor Baixin Lu even urged me before she left not to give you a hard time. What a joke. He stepped forward as if to say more, but from a distance came a growing clamor, and a voice called out frantically, General, General, General. Through a cloud of dust, Sima Chao's page came running at top speed. Hardly stopping to catch his breath, the boy gave us a hasty bow, and then said anxiously to Sima Chao, General, please return. Miss Bai, the old madam is furious and waiting for you. I didn't quite catch what the trouble was, but I saw Sima Chao's expression changed. He snorted coldly at us, said, you got off easy today, threw out a few more harsh words, then turned and hurried away. Lu Lizhang didn't say a word until Sima Chao had gone. That I snorted too and summoned my own page. From now on, keep an eye out for Sima Chao, but don't let that man anywhere near my Lulu, or within 3 meters of me. Don't worry. Lu Lizhang placed his hands on my shoulders. He's not a bad person. If he's not bad, who is? I gently cupped his face with concern. He just brandished a sword at you. Who knows what he might do next time? Lu Lizhang gave a soft laugh and murmured in my ear, I know. 09 For the next few days, I lived a life fit for the gods. Asterisk asterisk 09 asterisk asterisk. Lu Lizhang was, unexpectedly, completely compliant with my every whim. Or rather, wherever the wife sings, the husband follows. Where I went east, he went east. Where I went west, he went west. There was even a day when I accidentally let out a fart right in front of him. He simply raised a hand, summoned my maid Mingyue, and said, the princess has been suffering from some digestive discomfort lately. Tell the cook to keep the household meals light and mild. Startled half to death by his sudden shift in attitude, Mingyue covertly praised me, saying I was impressive, that I was a total boss, but I hadn't done anything at all. Could it be the new rouge I'd bought? I sent word to the owner of the East Street cosmetics shop to deliver another cartload of the same rouge. And what did Lu Lizhang say? My lady is naturally beautiful, free of artifice. She needs no common powders or paints to enhance her looks. This time, Mingyue didn't call me a boss. Instead, when Lu Lizhang was away, she knelt respectfully, served me tea, and gazed up with starry eyes. Your Highness, how did you win over the Left Chancellor? Could you teach me a little? I'd like to, next time, before General Sima. I stared. When did you take a liking to that sissy? Mingyue had been with me for years. I never imagined she'd fall for my archenemy. Clearly she valued romance over loyalty to her mistress. Not only did I not teach her how to snare a man, truth be told, I had no idea either. I docked 2 months of her allowance on the spot. She ran off in tears, then came back a while later with red-rimmed eyes. She curtsied and said, "Last time your highness went out without me. I just heard from Song Zhao that General Sima gave you a hard time that I'll never like. Someone like that again." I was so moved that I dropped the idea of making her scrub the latrines. She lifted her head and declared, "This servant swears, when your highness and the left chancellor have children, only then will I marry." 10. How vexing. People are never content. They covet what lies beyond while holding what they have. Lu Lizhang and I were now as thick as thieves, our bond stronger than gold. But we still hadn't consummated our marriage. To be fair, it had happened once, and only once, and the memory was anything but pleasant. But Lu Lizhang's recent attitude had emboldened me enough to start entertaining thoughts about him. Lu husband. I sprawled across the bed, chin propped on my hands, watching him walk in from the door. I called out. All smiles, he sat down at the tea table, casually picked up a scroll, and arched an eyebrow at me from behind it. Well, don't you think there's something a bit off about what I'm wearing today? His gaze drifted from my hand to the light green gauze gown I had on. What about it? I said earnestly. It has a mind of its own. Oh, I said gravely. It especially wants to fall open. I had never seen Lu Lizhang burst out laughing like that. A faint pink blush spread across his jade-white face, his long lashes crinkling into the most adorable arcs. Oh heavens! How could Lu Lizhang look so handsome when he laughed? I felt a little miffed. Was it that funny? His face still flushing with spring warmth, he nodded. Is Chengqing feeling bored? Bored. Bored indeed. That I was a little bored. And my body was a little bored too. I slumped sullenly over the table, silently protesting my dissatisfaction. But he just laughed more and more, as if he'd stumbled upon something highly entertaining. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he said, "Chengqing, today is the 15th of April, isn't it?" I nodded blankly. Yes. A shadow fell across my face. The faint scent of his cassia fragrance filled my nose. That I saw him walk over, lean down close to me, and say, "Your husband will take you somewhere. Shall we?" 11. Before our marriage, I had fantasized countless times about going out with Lu Lizhang. There were so many places I wanted to go. Ever since I was little, the priestess Jinghui had called me a monkey spirit, too restless to stay put. When I was still unmarried, I roamed far and wide, but after the wedding, I never went out again. Lu Lizhang didn't bring any servants. He simply took my hand and sneaked us out through the front gate like a pair of thieves. We were the illustrious Grand Princess and left Chancellor. Yet there we were with our faces veiled. He took me to eat stinky tofu, tucked magnolia blossoms into my hair from a street girl's basket, and spun pinwheels for me. He ran ahead, then turned back to ask, "Chengqing, are you having fun?" Fun? Of course it was fun. Even with a veil, that face of Lulu's could topple an empire. Honestly, the fact that I didn't get a nosebleed proves my self-control was solid gold. Though it was a bit of a pity I didn't get to truly play with Lulu himself. But a day like this had never happened before either. Smiling, he put his hands behind his back and said to me, "Today, you can play whatever you like. I, your husband, will cover everything." TCH, Lu Lizhang was such a miser. How much could these little market stalls possibly cost? But I was overjoyed, beaming as I answered, "You're the best, husband." The street vendors had overheard Lu Lizhang's grand proclamation and realized we were big spenders. They all waved at me, calling out, young miss, take a look at our hairpins. Our hairpins are the finest. Young miss, here, our freshly made ox-tongue cakes are the best in the capital. And our masks." A plump auntie also beckoned me with a smile. "Young miss, have a look at our freshly cut flowers. Buy one to wear in your hair." Her stall was laden with so many fresh blossoms, an even wider variety than the little flower girl had. Big blue hydrangeas, bright yellow roses, all glistening with dew, on the verge of blooming. Heartbreakingly beautiful, I picked up a large crimson peony and laughed, turning to Lizhang. Lulu, look, a peony. I've got the magnolia on my left, and I'll put this peony on my right. Don't touch it. Almost at the same instant, a gust of wind whirled past my ear. Slap. A dull pain bloomed on my hand. The blow was so fierce a hot, stinging sensation spread rapidly across my skin that I cried out. The peony fell from my hand and hit the ground with a soft thud that I yelped. Lulu, what are you doing? He didn't answer. He was bent over the flower stall table, gasping for breath, his hands gripping the wood so hard the veins bulged, as if he had seen the most terrifying thing in the world. The grievance I had just begun to feel vanished in a flash, replaced by sheer fright that I rushed over, grabbed his hand, and asked, heart aching, Lulu, what's wrong? His eyes were unfocused, as if he hadn't come back to himself. He only clutched my hand and blurted out wildly, don't wear it. Don't wear peonies. Don't wear peonies. It was the first time I had ever seen Lizhang this frightened. The pain in my chest was so sharp tears immediately spilled from my eyes that I held his head in my arms and softly coaxed him. I won't wear it. I won't. Why would I ever wear it? He seized my hand and kept repeating, don't wear it. Chung Chung, don't wear it. Chung Chung, don't. I patted him over and over, my heart breaking, and cursed along with him. I won't wear it. I won't. It's hideous. I'll never wear one in my life. No peony, we won't wear it. I stomped on the peony, crushing its red petals into fragments beneath my foot that I said, Lulu, look, the peony is gone. No more peony. He kept his head buried in my arms for a long time, refusing to lift it. Even through his sleeves, I could feel his shoulders trembling that I could only pat his back and soothe him gently. It's gone. It's gone. No more peony. Nothing left at all. Only Chung Chung. Chung Chung is here with Lulu. Chung Chung is at Lulu's side, so Lulu doesn't have to be afraid of anything anymore. 12 I had never seen Lizhang like this. He had always been so calm and self-possessed, even indifferent to most things. But now his shoulders wouldn't stop shaking that I held him in my arms, ignoring the astonished stares of passers-by, and redoubled my efforts to soothe him. Bah! What a lousy peony! So ugly it hurts. It's completely unworthy of my refreshingly elegant beauty. Disgusting. I'll never wear a peony as long as I live. After a long while, he finally spoke, his voice muffled against my chest. Really? Chung Chung won't leave? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I patted his shoulder and said, how could Chung Chung ever leave? Only Lulu would leave. He clutched my sleeve and murmured, almost like a spoiled child, I won't leave either. I stroked his head the way you'd pet a puppy. All right, Lulu won't leave either. It was then he sensed something was off. He lifted himself from my embrace, hesitated, and said, were you petting a dog just now? I beamed. I was petting my husband. The surrounding crowd burst into laughter, a chorus of ha-ha-ha, and I never thought I'd see the day Lizhang became the butt of a joke. Thank goodness his face was veiled, or he'd have been utterly mortified that he rose to his feet with exaggerated composure, even straightening his sleeves. I tossed a sliver of silver onto the plump Andy's stall, then grabbed his hand and bolted. The market was so crowded. Hand in hand, we ran through the throng toward an unknown path ahead. The wind lifted my veil, blew my hair, and I don't think I'd ever felt so freed. I was running down the road with the one I loved, and no one knew who I was. No one would point and say, Grand Princess, you are violating etiquette. I laughed and said to Lu Lizhang, Lulu, I'm so happy. He caught my hand, tugging me back. Chung Chung, careful that don't bump your leg. I laughed even harder. As if I'm that stupid. And then, smack asterisk. I bumped my leg. 13 Lu hoisted me onto his back and carried me down the lane. What did I tell you? Wincing, I shot back. You did that on purpose. He gave a helpless laugh. I didn't. Just as I was reaching to yank his ear, he smoothly changed the subject, a smile in his voice. There's a tea house ahead, perched halfway up the hill, facing the capital. The night view is beautiful. Wanna go? Only a fool would refuse. For all his refined, scholarly air, Lulu carried me without the slightest misstep, and soon we'd reached the foot of the hill beneath the tea house. From afar, the young attendant at the door spotted him and came hurrying over with a grin. Ah, Master Lu, you're here. Clearly, they knew each other well. He ushered Lulu inside, then shot a placating glance at me behind my veil. And this must be Miss Bai? Why a veil today? Lu Lizhang said, quietly, this is my wife. The attendant nearly leaped out of his skin. He dropped to his knees in a fluster, stammering, Mercy, Her Highness the Grand Princess. But my heart sank like a stone. I stood rooted, refusing to move. Lu Lizhang tugged at me twice. I stared at my toes and would not take a step. Chung Chung. His voice softened, full of rue. I've never brought Bai Xinyun here. Not once. Not ever. Truth be told, the moment those words left his mouth, the anger drained out of me. But seeing him volunteer an explanation, such a rare thing, I decided to pretend I was still cross. If you didn't bring her here all the time, why would the attendant assume I'm Bai Xinyun? He gave a soft laugh and wrapped his arms around me. That attendant used to be a servant of the Lu household. He left to care for his ailing mother and wound up working odd jobs here. As a boy, he often saw Bai Xinyun visiting our home, so naturally, he assumed she was with me again today. I put on a mournful look and stared at him until he couldn't help but laugh out loud. He seized my hand and, copying the way I'd scolded him on the street, said, Fine, fine, it's all your husband's fault. Your husband's to blame, and so is the shopkeeper. Behind him, the attendant opened his mouth, then thought better of it. He looked utterly miserable. I tossed him a sliver of silver, arched an eyebrow, and said, Don't mistake me for her again. The attendant's face broke into a beaming smile. Bowing low, he gushed, Seeing is believing. Her Highness is as kind as she is beautiful, a heavenly beauty unmatched. We went upstairs to a small, private room. The tea house was hushed and serene. Even the blinds were woven from bamboo. On the table, an old vase held no fresh flowers, only a withered branch. I remembered that, back when I'd first married Lu Lizhang, his study desk had displayed a vase of dried lotus leaves, but I couldn't stand their bitter, desolate look. Thinking myself clever, I crammed in a riot of wildflowers, only to watch Lu Lizhang's face turn to iron. He forbade me from ever setting foot in his study again. That Lu Lizhang felt like a lifetime ago. I gazed at the withered branch, and right then the voice of the very man I'd been imagining whispered in my ear. This tea house is my most cherished place. When my mother was alive, she loved coming here. She said the moonlight was most beautiful from this spot, that you could almost see your hometown. After she passed away, whenever sorrow came, I'd come alone, just a pot of tea. Lu Lizhang wrapped his arm around my waist, and together we leaned by the window, softly, as if speaking to someone beyond the empty air outside. He said, Mother, today is your death anniversary. I've brought Chung Chung to see you. So today was Lulu's mother's Memorial Day that I called out into the emptiness too. Old madam, rest easy. I'll make sure Lulu is well fed and plump, and I'll stand by his side no matter what. He turned to look at me, and I could have sworn his eyes were faintly red. It's all right that it's all past, Chung Chung, he said. He drew me close again and whispered in my ear. What was it you said to me in the manor today, Chung Chung? What did I say? The withered branch vanished from my mind that I racked my brain. What had I said? What had I said? I said I wanted to undo my own clothes. I blurted, clueless. Lu Lizhang paused, as if he hadn't quite caught it. My face flamed scarlet. Oh heavens! What did I just say? We were having such a lovely date, getting along so well, and I turned into a complete lech. Okay, fine, I am a complete lech, but timing. Even a lech knows when to lech. My face burned, and I was utterly speechless. How would I survive this life-halting cringe? What could I do? What could I do? What could I? And then, outside, the sky exploded with a great bang. Clusters of brilliant blue light burst into bloom. Fireworks. Wait, those were fireworks? No, they weren't fireworks. They were my savior, my absolute, utter savior. Without a second's delay, I seized Lu Lizhang's hand, pretended to be watching fireworks, and babbled desperately. Wah, so beautiful. Ha 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 ha. But the next instant, I couldn't make another sound. Lu Lizhang's arms slid around me from behind, inch by inch, slowly tightening at my waist. His voice murmured against my ear. Chung Chung. What? Can't even keep up your own act anymore. Laughter laced his words, and through that laughter, I felt his breath, hot against my neck. That I tensed. Lulu, you. He gently lifted my face to his. His lashes brushed my skin. A feather-light tickle so unbearable I nearly sneezed. And then he swallowed me whole. He was so close that it was my first kiss with Lu Lizhang. Even though we'd been intimate before, back then, with only a sliver of awareness left, he'd never kissed me once. That I was helpless under his tenderness. So gentle he seemed afraid of hurting me. Yet he didn't stop, pressing forward, soft and relentless. My head swam. Through a haze, I dimly heard him whisper against my ear. Chung Chung, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? Forgive him for what? My eyes had drifted shut. I was too dazed to think. That I looped my arms around his neck and, in a thread of voice, answered with the two lines of poetry I knew best. There is an end to the earth and sky, but lovesickness has no bounds. Then I felt his arms tighten, and I heard him murmur, low and deliberate, everything that's yours. I will take it back for you. I could hear no more. He began to peel away my clothes, touch by touch. My pale lotus-colored outer robe with its silver trim, my turquoise silk skirt, my pale gold brocade undergarment. His scattered kisses fell from my brow to my neck. His hands traced every inch of me, reverent, cherishing that as if he meant to consume me utterly. Lost in that tender haze, I seemed to see a mountain sea veiled in mist, the mountains tilting, toppling toward me, while waves surged again and again, gentle tides drawing near, step by step, lifting me into a boundless sea of stars. 14. I felt as though I'd had the most beautiful dream. So beautiful I could giggle out loud even with my eyes closed. Last night, Lulu and his eyes, clouded with desire, still flickered before me, along with his wet lips, his pale throat, and I hugged the quilt and couldn't hold back a laugh. Pity the clamor outside the courtyard made the dream impossible to continue. That I had no idea what had gotten into my princess manor. Even though I wasn't dead, I could hear wailing outside, people crying out, one after another. Grand Princess, Lord Left Chancellor, How could you be so heartless? How could you? How could we what? Tousled and groggy, I bolted upright that a pair of hands steadied me, and Mingyue's voice came through as if from very far away. Princess, 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 little General Sima is here with Bai Xinyan. Bai Xinyan? I snapped awake in an instant. Damn, what was she doing here? 15 Bai Xinyan looked as though she was knocking on death's door, face gray as paper, yet still standing stubbornly in my courtyard. Heavens, I swear I hadn't laid a murderous hand on anyone last night. So why did she look ready to drop dead? And General Sima, true to his name, was holding this half-dead girl in his arms and striking a pose. Even while holding that pose, he roared at me with righteous fury. Grand Princess, look what you've done. Satisfied now? I reminded him. Friend Sima, my patience has its limits. Calling me an ugly monster in the street last time was one thing, but barging into my residence to throw a fit, don't you think that's rather out of line? He swelled with even greater indignation. I fight for justice. Wherever I go, I speak only of righteousness. I don't care who you are. Is that so? For justice? Out of loyalty, the woman in your arms is a criminal's daughter. She should be on her way into exile. Holding a criminal's daughter while lecturing me about loyalty? And what about filial piety? I leaned back, and Mingyue, reading the moment, unfurled a parasol over my head, shooting Sima Chao a vicious glare. Her brows twitching fiercely, I lounged lazily in the shade, continuing. By filial piety, your mother is my aunt that I'm a year older. Your elder cousin that a younger brother shows no respect to his elder sister. You are my subject. Have you no mercy? Well. So Sima did take my words to heart after all. Out of some twisted sense of loyalty and filial piety, he switched from the casual you to the formal you, and his insult grew marginally more refined. But what difference does it make? It's just the difference between cursing someone with a respectful title and cursing them with a familiar one. He pounds on, his voice thick with anguish. If outsiders learn that you won't even let a frail woman off, it will harm your own reputation. Cousin. Me? I don't have a cousin as stupid as you. Bai Xinlu weakly raises her head from his embrace. General Sima. No. Please don't argue with Her Highness because of me. Sima the sissy cradles her chin tenderly. Xinlu, even in this state, you're still thinking of me that you're just too kind. That's why people keep bullying you. I'm so tired that I want to die. Fatigue hasn't faded, my back still aches, and I didn't even finish my sweet dream. What sin did I commit to have to watch these two nauseating me first thing in the morning? Your Highness. Bai Xinlu lifts her head from Sima Chao's arms again and gives me a frail, fleeting smile. I came with no ill intent. The doctor said my body is ruined. I haven't long to live. I just want to see Brother Lu one more time. Sima Chao, still supporting her, turns his face away, looking pained. Hey. Where's that fierce attitude you had just now? Your beloved is standing right here thinking about another man. Grow a spine, will you? Don't just take it out on me every single time. Ugh, my back really aches. I prop my hands on my waist and say to her, my husband has gone to court. Unlike that one beside you, who coasts on his father's military merits doing nothing but flirting all day, he's out building his career. I'm going back to sleep. That we'll chat another time. With that, I turn to leave. I've barely taken 2 steps when a thud sounds behind me. Sima the sissy cries out in distress. Xinlu, what are you doing? Bai Xinlu's sorrowful voice follows, slow and faint. Today, I must see Brother Lu. I freeze, turn to look. The courtyard is bleak, gusts of autumn wind blowing. Bai Xinlu kneels on the ground, prostrate, forehead touching the earth. When she raises her head, her eyes glisten with tears. She looks at me, tears brimming, her voice desperate. Please, Your Highness, grant me this. 16 The night before Lu Lizhang's personality changed drastically, I once said that I did something I thought he'd never forgive me for in this life. That thing was, I slapped by matters of the heart do not interest me. It was that no that made me recklessly go ask for the imperial edict. And in the end, I became a laughingstock that I pull myself back from memories, shift my gaze to Bai Xinlu, nod, and say, fine. She weeps with joy, prostrates herself, and cries out, Thank you, Your Highness. Even Sima Chao stares at me in amazement, as if he doesn't recognize me, and praises, You truly have a conscience. I smile at him. Oh, really? He nods at me foolishly, and I stomp hard on his foot. He yelps in pain, hopping around the courtyard clutching his foot. While hopping, he still kindly inquires about my health. Are you ill? Only I know it wasn't because I'd gone soft, it's because this new Lu Lizhang has inexplicably given me courage. I have a faint feeling that this time, Lu won't let me be wronged again. That courage buoys me, making me confidently invite Sima Chao and Bai Xinlu to sit down and share a meal while we wait for Lu Lizhang to return home. But what I hadn't anticipated was, this time, we waited from day to dusk, and from dusk to night, Lu Lizhang never came back. 17 Your Highness, don't be angry. Mingyue holds my hand, worried. Men, they inevitably make small mistakes. You must forgive the left chancellor. Bai Xinlu's expression is also grimmed. In the swaying carriage, she murmurs distractedly. Brother Lu was never like this before. I glare at her. Not like this. Then what was he like? Are you suggesting that after marrying me he lost interest, and that's why he's changed? Bai Xinlu's face flushes bright red, but she doesn't dare reply. Her spokesperson, Sima Chao, can't stay idle. He barks. Sima Chao stiffens his neck. No, I won't. I am a man of both loyalty and filial piety. You are the sovereign and my elder, so I must address you respectfully. Why did my aunt give birth to such an idiot? The carriage finally rolls to a stop. Why servant Lianshan lifts the curtain and says, Your Highness, Drunken Spring Pavilion is here. Before us is Drunken Spring Pavilion, the most high-end, most luxurious brothel in the entire Great Chong. Bleeding inside, but smiling on the surface, I ask him, You said someone saw the left chancellor enter which room? He looks at me pityingly. The most expensive one. Drunken Spring Pavilion, golden thread ropes, fragrant shoulders, painted beams and carved pillars. Walking inside, my heart aches. Damn you, Lu Lizhang. Yesterday you were all lovey-dovey with me, and today you're out visiting brothels, not just any brothel, but the best one, booking the most expensive room. Men, Bai Xinlu's eyes brim with tears. Brother Lu, why has he become like this? I glare at her. Weren't you just so knowledgeable about your brother Lu? Why ask someone else? You should know better than me. She's at a loss for words and shuts her mouth. I ignore her. The brothel attendant leads us to the room next to Lu Lizhang's. As expected, paying money gets better treatment. He bows and nods. Miss, sir, this spot is closest to the Laurel Palace. Laurel Palace. That's the name of Lu Lizhang's room. I beckon him closer and whisper, Is there a way for us to see inside? He says with a straight face, Miss, we run a legitimate business. Please don't insult us. I pull out 2 large gold ingots. He smoothly slips them into his robe, beaming. Yes, there is. Wait a moment. Bai Xinlu, Sima Chao. The mechanism was built into the wall. I have no idea what the attendant triggered, but the wall panel slid open to reveal a glass screen. He whispered to me, Miss, There's a small circle in the landscape painting on this screen. You can see through it into the room. The glass is thick. If you lean in close and keep your voice down, they won't hear a thing inside." I nodded and waved him away. Then I took a deep breath and slowly pressed my eye to the screen, and saw Lu Lizhang .18 somewhere. He had changed out of his official robes. Today he wore only a simple, pale green robe embroidered with bamboo, the sash cinched around a slender, powerful waist. He looked every inch the aloof, refined scholar that I stared, inwardly cursing and drooling at the same time. "Damn it, Lu Lizhang. Do you have any idea how devastating you look? You've got a gorgeous wife like me, waiting at home, and yet you come here to whore around? You actually came to whore around? Have you really sunk that low?" But as my gaze swept the room, I noticed something. No women. The realization let me breathe a quiet sigh of relief. He had his back to me, speaking with someone, though the figure opposite was hazy, hard to make out. That I could only vaguely tell it seemed to be a man's silhouette. That I pressed my ear hard against the screen and faintly caught a voice saying, "As long as you, the Left Chancellor, agree to work with us, there is nothing to worry about, Lu Lizhang. It's not a sure thing that I will not, but your terms and my terms." A hearty laugh answered from the other side. "Naturally, when the time comes, that dog of an emperor, then we." "Young master, you too." The voices were growing fainter. That I shifted my head again, straining to hear more, when Sima Chow tapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, what do you see? Anyone in there? Is there a top courtesan?" That interruption made everything even harder to catch. Frustrated, I stomped hard on Sima Chow's foot, leaving him wincing in pain, hand clamped over his mouth, glaring at me murderously but too afraid to make a sound. That I turned my attention back to the screen. Whether intentionally or not, I felt Lu Lizhang had shifted position slightly. Before, his back was fully turned to the screen. Now he stood at an angle, saying to the person opposite, "Good. You are indeed straightforward. In that case, tomorrow I shall. At that time, I hope you all forget and return peace to the Great Cheng." His counterpart burst into loud laughter. "Let's raise our cups then." "Raise our cups for what?" "Peace. Who can return peace to the Great Cheng but my imperial brother?" Frowning, I clung to the screen, desperate to hear more. Beside me, Sima Chow seemed thoroughly out of patience and shoved me aside. "If you can't make it out, let me tee our my ears are sharp. I'll definitely catch what he's saying." He shoved without warning. That I stumbled backward and stepped on something soft. Bai Xinlu cried out in pain. My foot." She staggered several steps back, knocking over a vase behind her, which smashed to the floor with a loud crash. The sound rang out so clearly the entire room could hear it. From the other side of the screen came, at last, the one perfectly clear sentence of the night. "Who's there?" 19. "That's it. We're done for. Absolutely done for." Bai Xinlu, Sima Chow, and I instantly froze, not daring to make a sound. That we had come to catch a man in the act. Yet now we felt absurdly like guilty thieves. Then, from across the screen, came the sound of a chair being kicked over. Lu Lizhang's voice rose, clear and bright. "I have booked this entire floor for tonight. That room next door is merely where my attendants are resting, and no need to be alarmed." I couldn't say why, but I had a strong feeling that he deliberately raised his voice. A long silence followed, as though the others were weighing things. Then voices spoke up one after another. "It is late, so let us adjourn here. Farewell, young Master Lu." From the corridor came the creak of the neighboring door opening. Several firm footsteps echoed down the hallway, jumbled, then quickly faded into silence. Sima Chow, Bai Xinlu, and I exchanged looks. Sima Chow whispered, That's it. Then we make a run for it." I slapped Sima Chow several times until he was half dead with grimacing. Bai Xinlu's small face was white, utterly lost. In our collective panic, a voice suddenly spoke from behind us. Run where? A soft laugh came from the doorway. Sima Chow leapt in front of us, panicked. Who? Who's there? Who's outside? The laughter drew closer, leisurely. Open the door. Voices responded outside. Yes, sir. There was a rustle of the lock, a turning of keys, and the door slid open with a rushing whoosh. The night wind swept in. Lu Lizhang stood in the doorway in his blue-green robes, bathed in moonlight, facing the wind. Beneath the moon, he seemed like an immortal. Jing. He smiled helplessly, opening his arms toward me, and said slowly, Did you come to catch your husband in the act? 20 Yes, I came to catch you in the act. Those words should have come out bold and righteous. But the moment I saw Lu Lizhang's impossibly pure and luminous face, the words that slipped out instead were, No, I just came here for fun. Ha! What a coincidence, husband. I didn't expect to see you here, too. Ha! For fun. He gave me a rueful look. Zheng, what fun could you possibly be having here? He had a point. This was a pleasure house. What fun is there in that? I couldn't exactly tell him I came for a male prostitute. That would be utterly debauched. My face must have gone through an entire rainbow of expressions just then, because Lu Lizhang burst out laughing. His attendant, Song Zhao, also chimed in, grinning. Your Highness needn't worry. The master merely rented a private room for an elegant conversation with some friends. He didn't call a single girl. I can attest to that. I managed an awkward, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. So mortifying. I'd just been with Lu Lizhang yesterday, and today I'm out here catching him cheating. I just wanted to crawl into a hole. Lu Lizhang gazed at me fondly, his eyes brimming with tenderness. Zheng was worried about me. Lu Lizhang finally shifted his gaze to Bai Xinlu. He said coolly, Very well. Then he turned his eyes back to me, smiled, and said, Did the incense bother you on the way over? The perfumes at Drunken Spring House are too heavy. You're not used to them. Bai Xinlu's eyes instantly misted over. She called weakly, Brother Lu. Sima Chow burst out indignantly. Lu Lizhang, aren't you a man? Do you know how hard it was for Xinlu to come out here? And you treat her so coldly? Sima Chow. This time, Lu Lizhang finally turned his face and fixed Sima Chow with a glacial stare. He spoke slowly. Do I need your permission to love my own wedded wife? 21 I was still dazed the whole way back that I couldn't shake what had happened just moments ago. Bai Xinlu had suddenly fainted right there in Drunken Spring House. Sima Chow lost his head, shouted at Lu Lizhang, demanded he stay behind to look after her. But Lu Lizhang merely said, flatly, I'm not a doctor. Her illness is none of my business. Bai Xinlu collapsed on the ground, slowly came to, tears in her eyes, and said to Lu Lizhang, Brother Lu, can you truly be so heartless to me? Lu Lizhang, didn't you just faint? How is it you're awake now? Bai Xinlu was so choked she couldn't speak, and could only break into a fit of coughing. Sima Chow raged. Lu Lizhang, are you satisfied now? What good does pushing Xinlu to this point do you? Lu Lizhang gave Bai Xinlu a half-smile, and suddenly spoke her name, Xinlu. Bai Xinlu froze for a second, then her face lit up with joy. Eyes still full of tears, she hurried to respond. Yes, Brother Lu, Xinlu is here. Xinlu is right here. Xinlu. Lu Lizhang regarded her coolly, speaking deliberately. All these schemes of yours, if you turn them on yourself, they might actually do some good. But if you aim them at others, he didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he simply reached over and wrapped an arm around me, and said softly, Zheng, let's go home. I was utterly stunned. These last 2 days of warmth had me half convinced Lu Lizhang might actually protect me. But I never imagined he would be so cold to Bai Xinlu. Even calling her out as scheming outright. Bai Xinlu was so stunned she forgot to cry, her tearful eyes fixed on him, her mouth hanging open. Sima Chao, of course, started shouting again, but it was useless that I didn't know why. But this side of Lu Lizhang felt strangely unfamiliar. The moment that thought hit, I wanted to curse myself. What's wrong with me? I was upset when he liked Bai Xinlu, and now that he doesn't, I'm unsettled. What do I even want? Arg, Zheng, what are you arg-ng about? 22, he smiled. Your husband only exchanged a couple words with her, and you're jealous. Tomorrow, let me take you to see the fireworks again. How does that sound? At the mention of fireworks, my face went red again. That he laughed loudly and said, Zheng, it's been too long since I've seen you this bashful. His voice was drenched in tender affection, his gaze so fond it seemed to carry 100 years of longing that I scratched my head. Too long. I blush every single day when I see you, Lulu. He smiled and patted my head. Far too long. Our carriage rolled through the bustling market, vendors' cries rising here and there. Amid them came a heart-wrenching wail. Please, save my child. Save my child. Save my baby. The carriage lurched as if someone had slammed into it. The driver shouted in alarm. Hey, what are you doing? Who goes there? The sudden jolt threw me backward, right into Lu Lizhang's arms. That he wrapped one arm around me, patting my back gently, and asked in a low voice, What's going on outside? The curtain lifted a crack, revealing Song Zhao's apologetic face. My lord, your highness, a beggar just crashed into the carriage that I couldn't stop her in time. I've startled you both. The crying outside didn't stop. That it sounded like a woman, her voice growing fainter, just barely audible. Kind souls, please save my child. Save my child. I poked my head out. Outside, a woman in tattered clothes lay on the ground, both hands clutching the carriage axle, blood streaming from her head, still refusing to let go. Beside her stood a similarly ragged young boy, around 16 or 17, his eyes brimming with defiance. He only held on to his mother, not uttering a single plea for mercy. That I turned to Song Zhao. Fetch a doctor. Treat them properly. Song Zhao nodded, dismounted, and went to support the woman. Suddenly he looked up at me, checked her breathing, and hesitantly said, She's dead. My heart clenched. How can that be? The boy, upon learning his mother was dead, remained silent, just staring coldly at the ground. That I instructed Song Zhao. Take her to a warm place and give her proper treatment. See if she can still be revived. Sometimes the breath is just too faint, and she might have only passed out. And you, young sir, you go with them. Only then did the youth look up at me. The moment our eyes met, my heart skipped. What a delicate, striking face, high-bridged nose, exquisite glass-like eyes, a sharp jawline paired with tightly pressed lips. Though his face was dirty and he was thin, he was quite tall for his age. He gave me a steady look, offered no thanks, then quickly lowered his head and followed Song Zhao away. Such a beautiful young man. Lately, though, the capital seemed overrun with refugees. Everywhere I looked, amid the usual bustle, ragged, emaciated figures leaned on crutches, sitting or slumping along the streets, watching passers-by with numb expressions. Behind me, Lu Lizhang grumbled, Zheng, why do you keep staring at him? Have you taken a fancy to him? 23 Lu Lizhang jealous. Lu Lizhang jealous over me. I spun around in shock and met his sullen gaze. He turned away awkwardly, but a suspicious red crept up his ears. Delighted, I scrambled over to his side. Lulu, what did you say? I didn't say anything, he said, refusing to look at me. There are too many people on the street, that let's go. I heard you. I grinned wickedly and poked his cheek. You were jealous just now, weren't you? Huh? Just a moment ago you were teasing me about being jealous, and now you're jealous of me. I leaned my face to the right. His turned left, I leaned to the left. His turned right that I squirmed around him like a worm until he finally couldn't take it anymore. He grabbed my wrist, a dark fire smoldering in his eyes. Zheng, that don't move. His breath came heavy and warm against my face that I felt hot. He pulled me abruptly into his arms, planting a light kiss on my cheek before reaching up to unpin my hair. My hair tumbled down. His voice turned throaty, barely a whisper. Song Zhao. Take us home. Now. 24 total bliss, no dream could compare. I had a stretch of days so peaceful it felt unreal. Every day, Lu Lizhang went to court as usual, but came back early. Sometimes he would take me to the spring lakes, sometimes to other places. Once he even dressed me as a man and took me to the stud farm. Zheng, learning to ride will only do you good, he told me. Not a word came out of Bai Xinlu again, aside from Yang occasionally barreling here in a fury, only to be chased away at the gate by Lu Lizhang's icily polite words that I never thought life could go this smoothly. Then, one night, I had a dream that I dreamed the palace was on fire. I saw a woman standing in the heart of the flames. She wore lavish crimson ceremonial robes and held a torch. She just stood there, torch raised, tongues of fire licking at her clothes, her hair. The sight alone was agonizing, but she showed no pain. She just stood and smiled that I shouted at her. Hey, run. Don't you feel pain? At my scream, she lifted her head that my heart seized. She had a face exactly like mine. That face looked at me and smiled slowly. Her voice, just like mine, spoke. Yes, run. The flames had started consuming her face, half of it seared red, her eyes burning crimson beneath the flames. She stared into my eyes, grinning darkly. Then, why haven't you run then? I jerked awake in a cold sweat that I was in my own room that I pressed a hand to my pounding chest and gasped. Thank goodness it was just a dream, just a dream. But no, even as those words left my mouth, Ming Yue's panicked shout rang through the door. Your Highness, something terrible. Lord Left Chancellor. The Emperor has him detained. 25 by the time I arrived at the palace, my brother knew exactly why I'd come. Without even raising his head, he said, if it's about mercy, don't ask. I plastered my sweetest smile on. Big brother, the bestest, greatest big brother in all the world, no use, Zheng. He drawled in deliberate syllables. That act won't work anymore. And Lu Lizhang has gone too far this time. Even I can't help. Still buttering him up and rubbing his legs grovel style, I ventured. So, what did he do? Colluding with foreign powers. He's been secretly in league with the Hu tribes. He dared to memorialize asking me to bestow favors on them, then pulled strings behind my back. I remembered it then that Lu Lizhang had been getting busier. His strange words in that private room that day floated back to me. But my mouth had already started moving on its own. No, that's the worst case that I team most. He talked some trash behind your back. My brother's hand paused mid-letter tilt. He turned slightly cold. So you knew? I frowned. Maybe, sort of. Excellent. He gave me a single calm, pale-faced look. Then, guards, put the princess in there, too. 26 Lu Lizhang and I sat across from each other in the cell. He was lounging elegantly on a chair. When he saw me, he smiled. Zheng, that you're here. As if he'd been expecting it, that I smiled back. Yes, husband. What a coincidence. He tilted his head proudly. A coincidence indeed that I had them bring up some fine chestnut cake before I arrived that will pair it with some drunk grape wine. Does that sound good? I tried to be serious. Husband, we are in jail right now. Ah, he clucked dismissively. Right. Best skip the wine then. Let's make it tea instead. I stared at him, clueless, but everything about him spoke unbruised contentment and glee. If I hadn't seen the bars, I might have thought it was our wedding bed. This prison, at least, was decent. More like a real guest room that Tio saved face for me. My brother hadn't hauled Lou Lizhang off to the dungeons and given him the fetters that I asked him. Lulu, why does Big Brother say you're colluding with the barbarians? The secret meeting that night at Drunken Spring Pavilion came to mind that I meant to question him on the carriage home earlier. But, well, that a distraction took me. Now that I thought better, I reconsidered my opening. You didn't do it, did you? You wouldn't have. I couldn't bear to believe that. His eyes sought mine from behind the fan. Zheng believes me. I shook my head. He laughed and said, Since you don't believe me, why do you start by asking me if I didn't do it? I answered him earnestly. Because I'm afraid. I was afraid of hearing the answer I didn't want to hear. Even more afraid that it might be true. His arms swept around me, pulling me into his embrace, and my ear brushed against the beat of his heart as he murmured above me. That night, how easily you slipped into the private room next to mine was no coincidence. His voice drifted like a sigh. When you arrived downstairs, a servant had already tipped me off. If I hadn't permitted it, why would they have led you right next to me? I wept as I listened. Damn you, Drunken Spring Pavilion. You're fleecing both me and my husband. Just you wait, I'll shut you down when I get out. Once I set my mind to something, I have full confidence this time I won't fail. He straightened me up, looked me in the eye, and said, Trust me. This time, I will not betray the nation. 27, and so Lou Lizhang and I settled into our prison cell, as solid and steady as if we lived there. My maid Mingyue came to visit once, telling me that the commandery princess of Anyang was waiting outside in line to see me make a fool of myself. I told Mingyue to go back and tell her that Her Highness the Princess was eating well and sleeping soundly, and that she, a mere commandery princess with nothing better to do, should mind her own business and think about why she'd been unwed for so long instead of sticking her nose in mine. Sima Chao, whom I hadn't seen in ages, also begged for an audience outside the cell, claiming he missed me and Master Lu that I had Mingyue tell him that his maid's disguise was far too shoddy. Whoever saw a maid dressed so finely? Tell Bai Xinlu to doll it up properly next time if she wants to sneak over. I just want to see Brother Lu, Bai Xinlu wailed, clinging to the prison bars, tears pooling in her eyes that I took pity on her and consoled her cheerfully. Don't worry, don't worry. Your brother Lu is perfectly fine. Every night he lies in my arms, drunk on passion, tumbling dragons and phoenixes together, like a proper pair of lovers turning into scheming opportunists. Her face went pale with disbelief, likely unable to imagine how her glorious, righteous brother Lu could be so cooperatively disgraceful. Lou Lizhang laughed at me. You're so grown, still acting like a child. I pouted. I'm only 18. To be honest, prison life was nothing like I'd imagined. That if anything, it was more like house arrest, and no wonder my royal brother forbade visitors. If anyone saw Lou Lizhang and me like this, the whole country would line up to go to prison. If not for the sword at my throat, I honestly thought this whole ordeal was just a farce, that once my brother's anger cooled, he'd let us go. Then the man with the sword said, So this is the great and famous Grand Princess of Decheng. Take her out. 28. The palace had fallen. That a handful of soldiers shoved Mingyue and me from the cell to the main hall, their swords at our backs. Mingyue was already in tears. That I forced calm and demanded of the man in charge. Where's the left chancellor? This morning, when I woke up, Lu Lizhang was gone. The man in charge had a round, affable face and spoke courteously. I don't know. They locked us in another room and barred the door. Outside, noise began to swell. The sounds of conflict, the unease in my chest grew that I asked again. The emperor? The round-faced man bowed again, still polite. I don't know. I lost all interest in speaking to this I don't know, but my palm found a hard, odd shape inside my sleeve. Stealing a glance, I excused myself to use the privy, slipped the hard object out, and gave it a close look. That it was a jade pendant. Below the pendant, a note was tied. Asterisk Zheng Zheng, rest easy. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. It was Lu Lizhang's handwriting. The my heart steadied a little. The clamor of battle rose again outside. Red flames seemed to lick at the doors and windows. Mingyue clung to my sleeve in terror. Your Highness, is something going to happen for real? His eyes sought me out from behind his fan. Zheng Zheng, do you trust me? I shook my head. He laughed, then added, if you don't trust me, why did your first question ask whether I'd done it? I answered him in earnest. I'm afraid. I was afraid of hearing an answer I didn't want to hear. Even more, I was afraid it was true. With that, he pulled me into his arms, my ear catching the rhythm of his heartbeat as he spoke above my head. That night, it wasn't a coincidence that you got into the private room next to mine so easily. His voice drifted to me like a sigh. The moment you arrived downstairs, a page ran to tell me. Without my permission, how could they have brought you right next to me? Tears streamed down my face as I listened. Damn you, drunken spring tower, taking money from both me and my husband. That I'll shut you down the moment I'm out. I did it, and I'm 10/10 certain I won't fail this time. He steadied me, looked into my eyes, and said, trust me. I will never betray our country this time. 27. And so Lu Lizhang and I settled into that prison cell. As comfortably as you pleased. My maid Mingyue came to see me once, telling me that Princess Anyang was waiting outside, so she could laugh at me. I told her to go tell Anyang that I, the grand princess, eat well and sleep like a log. A princess with nothing better to do should mind her own business and spend more time wondering why she still isn't married. Sima Chao, whom I hadn't seen in ages, also came to the cell asking to see us. Claiming he missed me and Lord Lude, I sent Mingyue out to tell him that the maid beside him was a laughable disguise. No maid ever wore such fine clothes, and that Bai Xinlu should put a little more effort into her costume next time. I just want to see Brother Lu, Bai Xinlu whimpered, clinging to the bars, eyes brimming with tears. That I comforted her kindly. It's fine. It's fine. Your brother Lu is doing splendidly. Every night he drowns in bliss and passion in my arms, making merry like a pair of shameless scoundrels. She looked utterly shocked, probably unable to picture her dignified brother Lu engaging in such shameless scoundrelry. At night, Lu Lizhang teased me. So old, still acting like a child. I pouted. I'm only 18. Honestly, prison life was nothing like I'd imagined. That it was more like house arrest than real imprisonment. No wonder my royal brother forbade visitors. If anyone saw the state Lu Lizhang and I were in, I'm sure everyone in Dacheng would be scrambling to get themselves locked up. If it weren't for the sword at my throat, I really would have thought this entire jail stint was just a game of pretend. That once my brother's anger faded, Lu Lizhang and I would walk right out. The man holding the sword said, so this is Dacheng's notorious grand princess? Take her away. 28. The palace had fallen. A few soldiers with swords herded Mingyue and me out of the cell and into the main hall. Mingyue was already sobbing in terror. That I forced myself to stay calm and asked the man in charge, where's the left chancellor? This morning, when I'd woken up, Lu Lizhang was gone. The leader had a round face and spoke politely enough. I don't know. They shoved us into a room and locked us in again. Outside, the noise grew louder, and a growing unease settled in my chest. I asked again, "Where is His Majesty?" The round-faced man cupped his hands again, just as polite. "I don't know." I lost all interest in talking to this "I don't know." But my palm bumped against a hard, odd shape inside my sleeve. Stealing a glance, I excused myself to use the privy, slipped the hard object out, and gave it a close look. That it was a jade pendant. Below the pendant, a note was tied. Zheng Zheng, rest easy. Nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. It was Lu Lizhang's handwriting. My heart steadied a little. The clamor of battle rose again outside. Red flames seemed to lick at the doors and windows. Mingyue clung to my sleeve in terror. "Your Highness, is something going to happen for real?" Even the guards' faces went pale. That I patted Mingyue's hand gently. "Don't worry. Even if something does happen, I am a princess of Decheng. That I will die for my country." The guards standing nearby froze, turning to stare at me. The leader, "I don't know," said, "I have heard all about your Highness's reputation for wanton indulgence, but I never imagined you possessed such spirit." "Good. Wanton indulgence. If I ever got out. First thing, chop off the heads of those spreading lies." That I closed my eyes, refusing to deal with them. My fingers clutched the jade pendant tightly. One arm wrapped around the trembling Mingyue. "Someone's coming." The sounds of fighting outside slowly died out. Footsteps grew louder, closer, closer. Swoosh! I pulled the sword from the nearest guard's belt. Startled, they all looked at me. That I pointed the blade firmly toward the doorway, steadying Mingyue with my other arm, and said in a sharp voice, "I don't care whose men you are. Whatever I do next, no one interferes. Otherwise, my sword has no eyes." The footsteps approached, and approached. My heart drummed wildly. Brother Lu Lizhang. "Are you two all right?" BM. The door burst open. Blinding white light swallowed everything. Several shadows raced toward me. That I gripped the sword tighter, then flipped it, and pressed the edge to my own throat. As the figures closed in, almost instantly reaching me. "Zheng." A hand caught my sword arm, striking the blade down to the ground. That hand led me, pulling me into an embrace suffused with the smell of blood. "It's done." In the white light, Lu Lizhang stood in full armor, cupping my face. Traces of blood still clung to his brow, but his face split into a joyful grin. "Zheng Zheng, the rebels are cleared out. That Decheng is safe. Everything is fine. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid." I smiled at him, and then I suddenly fainted. *29***. The scene before me twisted, like a kaleidoscope melting together. Amid the chaos, I saw myself again. I saw myself kneeling on the steps, shouting at the closed door. "Lu Lizhang, if you want to kill me, fine, but don't touch my brother." Then I saw Bai Xinlu. Her hair was piled high in a regal bun, her face powdered flawlessly, a white jade tasseled gold phoenix pin tilted in her hair. She descended the steps and stopped in front of me, saying slowly, "Grand Princess." She pinched my chin, examined my features carefully, and said, "Never thought you'd see this day." Without warning, she slapped me hard. Then she planted her foot on my chest, letting out a sugary laugh. "How about this? Kneel and polish my shoes. Lick them clean. Then I'll ask the left chancellor to beg His Majesty to just kill your traitor brother outright. Better than 1,000 dismemberments. So painful." In my dream, she kicked me to the ground. I ground out through clenched teeth. "By Xenlud Lu Lizhang. Both of you monsters. You'll die miserably. Die miserably. Fine." She lifted her foot from my face, wiped her finger, and said languidly, "The Grand Princess kneeling at the left Chancellor's door begging. Clearly she wants a man. Someone send her to camp. On the Chancellor's orders, as a reward to the troops. Let our beloved brothers who fought so hard for this kingdom taste the flavor of a former dynasty's princess." It hurt. Pain, tearing me apart from the inside. I thought I was thrown into a filthy, ruined place. Countless hands groped aimlessly over my body. I squeezed my eyes shut, the scenery gone, until the gray fog thinned. Then, a crystal-clear voice of congratulations rang in my ears. "Congratulations, Your Highness. Congratulations, Chancellor. The princess, she is pregnant." I had never seen Lu Lizhang so joyful. Days passed without me, so much as getting out of bed. "Zheng is 2 now," he said, bringing me medicine and fluffing the goosefeather cushion behind me. "You need extra nourishment." The truth about the royal court had come out. The man plotting rebellion was not Lu Lizhang after all. It was our royal uncle. Word was that the prince originally approached the barbarian tribes together with Lu Lizhang, planning to attack Da Cheng together. But Lu Lizhang turned on him, aligned instead with the barbarians, betrayed the crown prince, and had the emperor feign his capture. Once Lu Lizhang was arrested, the royal uncle assumed everything was undone and couldn't wait. That he rebelled. Early, when they dragged the crown prince out, his eyes were bloodshot as he screamed at Lu Lizhang, "I treated you well, every day. You asterisk." But Lu Lizhang just covered my eyes with a gentle hand. "Don't look, Zheng. It will frighten the baby." Honestly, our child inside me wasn't so easily scared. I had been carrying for nearly 3 months now, steady as ever, and greatly enjoyed playtime. This particular game included making me throw up, keeping me from sleeping, and simultaneously making me throw up and keeping me from sleeping. Having this baby nearly killed me. Lu Lizhang was torn with worry. When he comes out, I'm giving him a proper beating. Guess the baby heard. I heaved again, with a wah. He could only laugh ruefully, patting my belly gently. "All right, no beating. Just don't torment your mother anymore." By then, he was already a pillar in the court, helping my brother weed out dissidents. In court, factions were rooted out and others installed. One after another, he served the emperor, my brother, growing busier by the day. But every time court was over, he still came back to hold me, to coax me. I had never felt so happy. Only sometimes, remembering the dream I'd had that night, I grew vaguely uneasy. Late one night, I told Lu Lizhang about it. He held me for a long time without saying a word. "Zheng, don't worry. It was just a dream." He kissed my brow, once, then again. I couldn't tell if he was soothing me or himself. His voice was very low. "Just a dream. That dream will never come true." **30**. The weather was especially fine that day. I was already 4 months pregnant. Finally, I'd stopped vomiting my guts out like before, truly worthy of celebration. My mood was excellent, and Lu Lizhang asked me if I had any wishes. I thought about it, and said, seriously, "I want to go out and play." He pinched my nose, his eyes full of affection. "All right." There was a pleasure boat on the outskirts of the capital, said to have superb small soup dumplings. During the first 3 months, I'd been throwing up so much that just hearing the words small soup dumplings made me retch. Now that I'd recovered, soup dumplings were all I could think about. Lu Lizhang rented a private room and ordered the boat's entire selection of soup dumpling varieties, plus several plates of side dishes. I was dipping them in vinegar, chili sauce, and chives and fermented tofu jam. "Slow down." He carefully wiped the grease from the corner of my mouth, smiling. "We're staying here all day. Whenever you want to eat, just tell me, and I'll have them bring it." I smiled at him. Then the door opened again, and a young servant came in, placing a small jade pot before me. Curious, I stared at the bluish-green liquid pouring from it, turning to Lu Lizhang. What's this? Green grape juice. He gently stroked my hair. Now that you're with child, you can't drink alcohol, but I remembered how you used to love it. So I had them make this green grape juice to it has a faint wine fragrance, but won't make you drunk. He lifted the cup to his lips with my hand and took a sip, then smiled. Not bad at all. Tell the keeper, a reward. But the servant didn't move. Lu Lizhang frowned slightly. What's wrong? The servant stepped forward, saluted him, and said, Sir, someone came looking for you outside just now. A white jade pendant was offered to Lu Lizhang that I'm not sure if I saw it wrong. But his expression froze for a fleeting instant. The frozen moment vanished in a flash. He calmly accepted the pendant. I see. Is it important? I looked at him worriedly. If it is, go ahead. I'll stay here. Mingwei and the others are with me. Don't worry about me. He turned his hand and grasped mine, patting it soothingly, but a ripple of panic crossed his eyes. It's nothing, Zheng. I'll just go check. I'll be back soon. 31 Lu Lizhang rarely panicked. I'd known him since we were kids. He had always been a cool-headed person. When I was little and we went out with the National Academy, Byong wailed and frighted a snake on the path, while Lu Lizhang simply broke a branch from a nearby tree and calmly flicked it away. What on earth could have alarmed him like this? I followed him to a guest room. The carvings in the window panes muffled the sound into something faint and distant, but Lu Lizhang's voice still came through clearly. What are you doing here? A faint rustling came from the other side, then a voice rang out. The sound coiled into my chest, like a scorpion climbing straight to my heart. Brother Lu, it's been quite a feat just to track you down this time. Just as you said, I told Prince Duan. Lo and behold, when I said you'd already secured everything within the palace, he couldn't hold back. He started his rebellion early. I was happier than I had ever been in the court. There were factions to purge and factions to elevate. Helping my imperial brother, he grew busier every day. Yet after court, he would always come back and hold me, soothing me. Only sometimes, when I recalled the dream from that night, a vague unease would creep back. Late one night, I told the dream to Lu Lizhang. He held me for a long time without speaking. Chung, rest assured, it was only a dream. He kissed my forehead gently, over and over, as if coaxing me, or himself. His voice was so low. It was only a dream that will never come true in this lifetime. 30 The weather was glorious that day. I was 4 months pregnant, and at last I wasn't vomiting my guts out. Truly a cause for celebration. I in high spirits. I heard Lu Lizhang ask if I had any wish. I thought for a moment, then said seriously, I just want to go out and have fun. He pinched my nose, his eyes brimming with indulgence. All right. Outside the capital, there was a pleasure boat famous for its soup dumplings. During my first 3 months, I'd been so wretchedly sick that the mere words soup dumplings would set me retching. Now that I had recovered, soup dumplings were all I could think about. Lu Lizhang booked a private room and had the boat's staff bring every variety of soup dumpling they had, plus an assortment of side dishes, vinegar, chili dip, even chive blossom paste for dipping. Slow down, he said, carefully wiping oil from the corner of my lips with a smile. We'll stay here the whole day. Whenever you want to eat, I'll tell them to serve more. I smiled at him, and just then the door opened again. A young attendant came in and placed a small jade pitcher before me. Curious, I watched the translucent greenish liquid pour from the pitcher. I turned to Lu Lizhang. What's this? Green grape juice. He stroked my hair gently. Now that you're with child, you can't drink wine. but I remember how fond you always were of it. So I had someone craft this green grape juice. It carries a whisper of wine's fragrance without making you drunk." He lifted the cup to my hand, took a sip from it, and smiled. "Not bad at all. Tell the owner. A reward." But the attendant stood still. Lu Lizhang frowned slightly. "What is it?" The boy stepped closer, bowed with clasped hands, and said, "My lord, someone outside is looking for you." A white jade pendant was presented to Lu Lizhang. Perhaps my eyes deceived me. For a fleeting instant, his expression froze. The stiffness vanished as quickly as it came. His face calm, he accepted the pendant. "I see. Is it urgent?" I asked, worried. "If it's urgent, go ahead. I'll be fine here. Mingwei and the others are with me. Don't worry about me." He took my hand, patted it reassuringly. But in his eyes, I caught a flicker of alarm. "It's nothing. Chengsheng. I'll go have a look. I'll be right back." 31 Lu Lizhang rarely showed alarm. Since I first knew him as a child, he had always been unflappable. When we were young and out with the National Academy group, a snake appeared on the path. Yang burst into terrified sobs. But Lu Lizhang simply snapped a branch from a nearby tree and flicked the snake aside. What could possibly unsettle him like this? I followed him to a guest room. The carved floral patterns in the window lattices muffled the sounds, rendering them faint and distant. But Lu Lizhang's voice still came through clearly. "What are you doing here?" A rustling sounded from the other side. Then, a voice emerged. It coiled toward me like a venomous scorpion, slithering straight into my heart. "Brother Lu, tracking you down this time has been no small feat. Just as you instructed, I told Prince Duan, and indeed, when I said you had already arranged everything within the palace, he couldn't contain himself. He launched his rebellion ahead of schedule. Now that he has fallen, shouldn't we put our own plan into motion?" Thunderstruck, I reeled. "It was by Xinlu. 32 Lu Lizhang's voice came slowly, cold as jade. "Did I not say we should not meet during this time? Where did you get that pendant?" Bai Xinlu laughed softly. "Brother Lu, with your lovely wife pregnant and the emperor's favorite riding high, you're absolutely resplendent these days. I feared you might be so happy you'd forget our planned S.O. I gave matters a little push." Insolence. Something inside the room was struck. Bai Xinlu laughed even louder. "Brother Lu, why so angry? Wasn't this what we agreed long ago? Right now, the emperor has just quashed the rebellion and is careless and off guard. The border Khan's personal letter. I've brought it with me. He has a single question for you. If not now, when? If not now, when? If not now, when? My head buzzed in the back of my mind. His earnest words from the prison echoed once more. "Trust me. This time, I will never betray our kingdom." I drew a deep breath, stumbled backward 2 steps. Another deep breath, and I turned to leave. Thud. A vicious blow struck the back of my head. I saw nothing more. 33 The first time I met Lu Lizhang was at the National Academy. We were both still small. He was brought in one afternoon by the Grand Tutor. Tutor Su, still young then, stroked his head and announced, "This is the late Secretary Lu's legitimate son. From today, he studies here with us. Treat him well. You must not bully him." Lu Lizhang stood in plain white robes, already bearing, even at that tender age, a trace of the young man's keen, striking beauty. He merely cupped his hands in a brief salute and said nothing. I liked him from the first glance. "Don't go liking him," my imperial brothers said to me back then. "That Lu Lizhang, his temperament is more than odd. They say his mother died young. His stepmother and the other mistresses bullied him at home. He's stubborn to the bone. They broke cane after cane, and he still refused to call his stepmother mother. Now that his father is dead, His life is even harder. Not just the concubines. His uncles are all eyeing his family's fortune. At Secretary Lu's funeral, the family nearly tore the roof off. Then the imperial uncle went to pay his respects. Suddenly Lu Lizhang rushed out and knelt before him, said something no one could hear, and, well, today, he's been placed in the National Academy. At the time, Lu Lizhang did not like to talk. He was fiercely stubborn. The only people he treated with respect were the Grand Tutor and the imperial uncle. Toward brats our age, he wouldn't spare a single glance. One day I spoke to him. Why don't you ever smile? He kept reading, not looking at me. I don't like it. Then what do you like? His eyes shifted onto me. I like it when people stop asking me stupid questions like what I like. My head hurt that I felt as if countless feet were stomping on the back of my skull. Pain throbbing in jolts, I wrenched my eyes open. Everything around me was dark. Instinctively, I tried to touch the wounded spot on my head, and realized my hands were bound. Awake! Someone there! I shrank back warily and shouted, "Who are you?" In the darkness, a pair of crystalline eyes turned toward me, indifferent. "I'm your father, 34 me." The crystalline eyes asked again, "Does it hurt?" Me? Should I give your skull a good whack so you can find out? He seemed to laugh a little before saying, "If you're hungry, just say so. I'll have a maidservant bring food." This man and his crystalline eyes might have an irritating tongue, but he didn't seem entirely evil. That I sat up against the wall. "Why have you tied me up here?" "It wasn't I who tied you up," he said with perfect composure. "I rescued you. If I hadn't grabbed you and brought you here, you'd have been tossed straight into some brothel patron's bed by those brutes." Cold raced down my spine. "Impossible," I blurted. "What's impossible?" he shot back. "When even your husband might be plotting rebellion. What's impossible?" He leaned close. "Or is it that if your husband rebels, you can forgive him?" His face was so close I could almost see every feature. Startled, I exclaimed, You're that little beggar from that day?" 35, he looked distinctly displeased. "So in your eyes, I'm just a beggar?" Could I say yes? My life was in his hands. I immediately corrected myself. Even a beggar, if he were the dashing, graceful, devastatingly handsome type, like a tree of jade in the breeze, a matchless man. TCH. He leaned back lazily. "You know what's good for you?" I asked, "Where are we?" "Still on the boat." He didn't even glance at me. "We never left the pleasure boat." "Wonderful." I struggled against the ropes. "Thank you. Send me back, and I'll have my people reward you handsomely. Don't you want to know what your husband has really been doing behind your back?" I froze. His voice was like a scorpion, creeping up my spine. "Bai Xinlu is on this boat. Right next door. I guarantee your husband will come looking for her again. Don't you want to know what they're plotting in secret?" Through clenched teeth, I forced out 5 words. "Who exactly are you?" He leaned back against the boat again and tossed 2 words at me. "Secret." 36. My trust in Lu Lizhang did waver. Not because of me, though. Because of the kingdom, reckless as I am. I know full well that a princess's duty puts the stability of the realm before her own happiness, but I did not want to believe that he was that kind of man. The pleasure boat was ingeniously built. My room happened to be right next to Bai Xinlu's, with a small hidden peephole that gave me a perfect view of what went on. Inside, at dusk, I finally saw Lu Lizhang. He was travel-worn, his usually spotless robe covered in grass stems and dirt, his shoes caked with mud. The moment he stepped in, he grabbed Bai Xinlu by the throat and demanded, "Where exactly did you throw Chengqing?" Lu Lizhang is a fastidious man. Once a young eunuch splashed his official robes, and rather than wear soiled clothes, he went to court in his underrobe. That Lu Lizhang. Now he looked utterly disheveled. His grip on Bai Xinlu's neck was so tight it hurt just to watch. Yet she acted as if it didn't hurt at all. Gasping for air, she still gave him a coquettish smile. What's the matter? Worried? Go on, strangle me, kill me, and you'll never, ever know where she is. Lu Lizhang's fury was real. I saw the red rims of his eyes glistening faintly with tears. He drew a deep breath, released Bai Xinlu, and asked, one word at a time, what thought is she? Bai Xinlu burst into wild laughter, tears streaming down her cheeks, and then she said, she's in a brothel. Who knows? Maybe at this very moment she's entertaining customers. My heart sank. To think that the little beggar had been telling the truth. But Lu Lizhang only grew calmer. He said, impossible. I had every pleasure quarter sealed off the moment I learned she was missing. If you had thrown her into one of them, I would know. Now it was Bai Xinlu who looked incredulous. You were guarding against me. You actually believed I would throw her into that sort of place. Lu Lizhang gave a cold laugh. Given the precedent, do I even need to explain? 37 I had always known that Bai Xinlu was the white moonlight in Lu Lizhang's heart, and no matter what I did, Lu Lizhang would always protect her, even calling me intolerant. Now I don't know what had changed. He was actually saying that Bai Xinlu was a lesson from the past. Clearly, the person more bewildered than I was Bai Xinlu. She stared at him, stunned. Lu Gij, we grew up together. You must know what kind of person Xinlu is, don't you? Even though the eldest princess bullied me in 100 ways, didn't I always endure it for your sake? Bullshit. When have I ever bullied you, let alone 100 times? I nearly stormed out to hit her, but Lu Lizhang's voice cut her off, cool and detached. Xinlu. Once, I also thought you were pure-hearted. He leaned both hands on the railing and gazed into the distance. You and I grew up together, though I never had romantic feelings for you. Your father once did me a great kindness, so I always treated you differently from others. But later, I realized I had completely misjudged you. You were never innocent, on the contrary. You are vicious and scheming. You wouldn't even spare an innocent person. The more he spoke, the more Bai Xinlu's tears fell. He swept an indifferent glance over her face. I know you have ties with the prince. Your every move is now being watched. For your father's sake, I won't kill you. But if anything happens to Changqing, I will make sure you pay with your life. 38 The little beggar set a bowl of food in front of me and grumbled, Hey, you're practically drooling. What? I wiped my mouth on instinct before realizing he had tricked me. That I smacked him on the head. You liar. He folded his arms and leaned against the door, grumpy. So his conscience has suddenly awoken, and he said a few nice words that I asked that really worth getting this worked up over? Feeling sheepish, I snapped. Who's worked up? Don't talk nonsense. But despite my words, the corners of my mouth kept curling into a smile. Though things between Lu Lizhang and me had already grown steadier than before, seeing him defend me like this filled me with a sweetness I'd never known. That I glared at him. Now you've seen. Lulu is in the clear. When are you letting me out? You mean it's not comfortable here? The little beggar put on a wounded look. I went to so much trouble to prepare this place just for you. I smiled and nodded. So comfortable, so cozy, so lovely. Like hell. I'm a princess, and I have my own man. I don't have time to rot in prison with you. Then there's no helping it. He sat cross-legged opposite me, tossed a piece of fruit into his mouth, and gave me a teasing look. There's an outing tonight that I'll have to take you along. I turned to him in disbelief. The madam hesitated. Oh dear, young master. This must be your wife? And she's pregnant. Isn't this a bit improper? No problem. Shun Liang shot me a sidelong glance. My wife here has a taste for the most shamelessly seductive outfits. Madam, whatever you consider the most dashing and wicked, dress her up exactly that way. 40 I soon learned what Shen Liang really wanted. The girls in the brothel stripped and dressed me in an extremely revealing outfit. They painted me with a dizzyingly provocative face. Then they covered me with a veil and pushed me out. When they presented me to Shen Liang, he looked me up and down. Not bad. He took a sip of tea and studied me with amusement. Now send my wife to the main hall. The madam turned pale. Young master, if you and your wife want to fool around, isn't this taking it too far? Don't worry. Shen Liang tossed her a gold ingot, took another sip, and said lazily, I won't get angry. My wife has an illness. She's obsessed with men. Putting her out in the pleasure hall, madam. Just think of it as treating her affliction. Feeling my murderous glare, he raised an eyebrow and grinned. What is it, my dear? The hell with your dear, I thought furiously, drained of strength. I could only be dragged by the madam and set up in the middle of the main hall. All the way there, she apologized. My lady, it's the master's orders. I'm only following them. When you're on good terms with him again, please don't take it out on me. The moment we reached the hall, shouts rose from all sides. Hey, a new girl. Madam, give us an introduction. The madam glanced anxiously toward where Shen Liang was and forced a dry laugh. Gentlemen, this is a new girl, quite shy. Please, allow her just to sit for a bit. A few rough men bellowed. What's the point of sending her out if we can't have her? Playing games. I felt those lecherous eyes crawling all over me and glared furiously up at Shen Liang on the second floor. He leaned on the railing, his eyes dark and fixed on the men watching me. What on earth was he planning? Shen Liang made me stand on the stage for a while before retrieving me. Day after day, he had me go up on display like that, sitting on a chair for others to gawk at. Then every evening he would send me back to my room with fine food and drink. You pervert, I spat at him. Shameless wretch, if you're going to kill or torture me, get it over with. Stop humiliating me. Is that so? Shen Liang toyed with a knife in his hand, expression utterly serious. Kill or torture you, any way I like? Then shall I? I immediately backtracked. Hero, I was only joking. Are you kidding me? I have a baby to Lu Liz Hang is still out there looking for me. No one in the whole world has more reason to survive than I do. You should eat more. Shen Liang stirred the bowl of chicken soup and handed it to me. His gaze fell on my belly, and a strange softness flickered in his eyes. What do you really want? I watched him warily. Don't look at me with those disgusting eyes. I am the eldest princess of the great Qing. Oh, all right then. He stood up. I'll take the soup away. You can drink plain boiled water for the next few days. I immediately changed tack. I was wrong, big brother. He smiled and ruffled my hair. See, you do know how to bend. Shen Liang is a madman. Over the past few days, I've tried everything. Promises of riches, threats, bribes, pleas. Nothing would make him let me go. He simply asked me back. Do you think I care about any of that? Defeated, I asked him. Then what do you care about? If I have it, I'll give it all to you. Feeling his eyes on me, I hastily crossed my arms and added, except myself. To my surprise, Shen Liang didn't mock me this time. He asked, very seriously, what's so good about Lu Lizhang? I froze. He counted off on his fingers. He's passably handsome, yes, and well-educated. But he never treated you well before. He's full of schemes, complicated, deep. What's so good about him? This time I couldn't hold back. The hell do you know? If he didn't treat me well. You think you do? You kidnapped me, locked me up. Every day you dress me up like some whore and parade me around down there. The more I spoke, the more wronged I felt. All my life, although I'd never had much schooling and was always mocked when I came to the capital. On the surface, everyone still addressed me respectfully as eldest princess. Yet now even a gutter rat could walk all over me. The more I thought, the more I cried, and the louder I wailed. Now it was Shun Liang who panicked. He wiped my tears, coaxing as he did. All right, I'll never treat you like that again. Then he muttered under his breath. But you used to like it. I was so furious I sobbed even harder. I never liked it. You liked it. Your whole damn family liked it. I was frantic with worried. I had no idea how long I'd been gone. Liu Lizhang must be half out of his mind. Shun Liang, though, didn't seem the least bit anxious. After that day, he no longer made me stand in the main hall as punishment. He switched out a substitute, dressed her in makeup identical to mine, veiled her face, and stationed her downstairs. Then he asked me with a grin, "Well, are you happy now?" Happy my ass. He kept sending odd things to my room, either wooden crutches or insects, and would ask, "Do you like them?" I figured he seriously needed his head examined. I don't know how many more days passed like this. Just when I was losing all patience with everything, Xin Liang said to me, "Tomorrow you'll understand." The next day, I finally understood exactly what he meant. The next day dawned brilliant and fine. Uncharacteristically, Xin Liang didn't make me stand in the great hall. He had the madam dress me up gorgeously, more elaborately than any time before. Then he pulled me into his arms and sat with me right in the center of the hall. The show's about to begin. The pleasure house was thronging with people. The door curtain lifted, and a large, imposing party entered. The man at the front was none other than Liu Lizhang. Liu Lizhang had grown thinner. His expression looked perfectly untroubled, as if nothing were amiss. Only, his complexion was a little pale. He seemed not quite well. The man beside him I recognized. It was Prince Duan. "Li Zhang, you've seemed out of sorts lately. A yin-yang imbalance, perhaps?" Liu Lizhang smiled and answered smoothly, "Very well." I stared at him, dazed. A voice in my head told me Liu Lizhang was by no means in earnest. This must be a temporary expedient that I trusted him. Though we'd truly been husband and wife for only a few months, that I trusted him still. The Lord walked up the stairs while summoning the madam. "Bring a few girls." Yes, the madam bustled to comply. "By the way, I hear you have one girl here who's been causing quite the sensation these past days on stage. Fetch her too." In that instant, lightning flashed through my mind. Sudden understanding hit me. So this was Shun Liang's game all along. Liu Lizhang had already searched the brothel. It would never occur to him that the moment he left, someone would slip me right back inside. And now they were exploiting that very blind spot to lure him back here. So he'd discover me before everyone's eyes. The madam said, embarrassed, "My lord, that girl, she..." I couldn't let anyone discover it was me. But this was my only chance to escape. "Madam," Shun Liang's lazy voice drawled above my head. "You seem a bit tense." "That damned pervert." I glared at him with pure hatred. He smiled back, pulled me against his chest, and called down in that languid tone, "My apologies, my lord. This woman has already been reserved by Shun. If your lordship wishes to enjoy her company, it will have to wait until tomorrow." The moment Xin Liang spoke, I saw Liu Lizhang's gaze drift calmly our way. That moment I saw his eyes as if struck by lightning. His whole body leaned forward, his hand gripping the railing so hard the veins bulged. He had seen me, that I don't know why, but my eyes grew hot and tears spilled straight down. His eyes reddened in an instant. He stared at me fixedly, not blinking once. Prince Duan glanced at him, gave a hearty laugh, and clapped Liu Lizhang on the shoulder. "What's this, brother Liu? Is the girl so startlingly beautiful she makes even you lose control?" Lu Lizhang did not answer him. Yes, I was in heavy makeup, my face veiled, and no one who wasn't intimately familiar with me could possibly recognize me. Seeing Lu Lizhang silent, the prince asked again, puzzled, Brother Lu, are you all right? He called several times before Lu Lizhang seemed to come back to himself. His gaze slowly pulling away from me in an instant. He resumed his usual open, clear demeanor and smiled at the prince. It's nothing. Let's go inside. Before leaving, he glanced back at me one more time, as if in provocation. Shen Liang lifted my chin right in front of him and stroked it slowly. I stared numbly as Lu Lizhang turned to leave. Shen Liang's voice curled into my ear like a serpent. Well, your beloved recognized you, yet still made no move. Now will you accept your fate? I couldn't speak, that I could only glare at him. Shen Liang gave a cold snort and was about to say more when suddenly shouts erupted from the rear chambers. Fire! Fire! Someone come put out the fire. Thick smoke billowed up, racing from the lower floor toward the upper. Countless people burst from the rooms, surging toward the exit. A man rushed to Shen Liang's side and whispered a few words. Shen Liang's face changed. Just like Lu Lizhang, to go this far, he smiled bitterly to himself, though his arms around me didn't slacken. To protect your cover, he'd burn down the entire Drunken Spring Pavilion, even summoned the Iron Guard to surround it. Shen Liang twisted my chin up. That Lu Lang of yours fooled me well these past days, playing loose on the surface, but even visiting a brothel, he brought a whole troop of guards, ready to rescue you at any moment. My eyes burned. Amid the chaos, I glimpsed a figure in blue racing toward the stairs. It was Lu Lizhang. The crowd was frantically streaming out. He alone pushed against the tide that he ran so fast. The panicked masses knocked his jade coronet askew. His robes grew filthy with dust, but still he shoved his way through, forging ahead relentlessly, forging ahead, straight toward me, as if his life were nothing to, as if he were coming to retrieve the most precious thing in the world. Time to go, little Gu Cheng. Shen Liang patted my cheek. This time I can't take you away. But don't worry, I'll come back to see you. He stuffed something into my arms, saying, if you ever run into trouble, show this that I'll come save you. I mouthed feebly, get lost. Shen Liang vanished quickly. He set me down in a chair and was gone in a few strides. Thick smoke surged up the staircase. The noise around me grew deafening. My consciousness began to slip into fog. Just as the dense smoke was about to close in, a gust of wind rushed toward me. Someone yanked me fiercely into his arms. It's all right, Chung Chung. It's all right. He held me close. The familiar scent of sandalwood and orchid enveloped me. It's all right now, Chung Chung. Lu Lizhang held me so tightly I could almost feel the rolling pulse in his throat. He held me as if to comfort me, or perhaps to comfort himself. Chung Chung, you're safe. Nothing will happen. It was my fault. I will never let anything happen to you again. Never again. As my consciousness faded, I managed to lift my hand to his face and stroke it gently. He caught my hand and pressed it to his cheek, but he said, Chung Chung, I'm taking you home. He swept me up in his arms, carrying me bridal style. With a few soaring leaps, he flew from the upper floor. I don't know if it was a hallucination, but I seemed to see Bai Xinlu standing on the upper balcony, staring blankly at the two of us. Just as my eyes passed over her, she suddenly smiled at me. Almost at the same moment, shocked cries rose all around. The eldest princess. It's the eldest princess. I strained to open my eyes and saw Lu Lizhang's despairing face. His expression was so despairing he looked at me as if he were staring down a dead-end road from which there is no return. The lamplight in his eyes dimmed, flicker by flicker, dissolving into nothingness. My reputation was ruined. The eldest princess discovered in a brothel. Paired with the news that Lu Lizhang had been frantically searching the capital these past days, everyone understood. The Grand Chancellor's eldest princess had been found in a pleasure house. The rumors, naturally, grew wings and spread across the capital. Some said I had been defiled. Others whispered that I was wanton by nature. Some even said the child in my belly wasn't Lu Lizhang's at all, that I couldn't care less what any of them said, that I only cared about Lu Lizhang. Ever since he'd found me in that brothel that day, Lu Lizhang stayed by my side constantly, never leaving for an inch that night. If I stirred even slightly, he would wrap his arms around me and murmur, "Chengqing, don't be afraid, don't be afraid." Once, in his sleep, he shouted, "Chengqing, don't go, don't step outside. It's dangerous out there." When I woke him, he held me for a long, long time, his back soaked with sweat. I tried to comfort him. "Lu, don't be afraid, it's all in the past, it's all in the past." Only this time, Lu Lizhang didn't answer. He stared at the bedding for a long while, as if asking himself, or someone else, is it really all in the past? I didn't understand what he meant, so I simply wrapped my arms around him as tightly as I could. That day, a grand banquet was held at the palace. My brother the emperor summoned both Li Zhang and me to attend. On the way in, I spotted Princess Anyang. Gone was her earlier restraint, the smug look on her face all but screamed for attention. From a distance, she called out loudly, "Good heavens, isn't that the Songming princess? My, if it weren't for the palace plaque, I'd think this was the drunken spring pavilion." At her words, several noble women nearby hid their smiles behind their sleeves. That a murmur rippled through the crowd. How shameless! She still dares to show her face. I heard she was already ravished in that pavilion. I'd long grown used to this kind of gossip. Even before this incident, people in the palace called me a wild girl from the mountains. The palace thrived on scandal. I'd never cared about the foul mouths flapping around me. That I tugged Lu Lizhang's sleeve and said, "Lu, let's go. We don't need to take them seriously." Lu Lizhang stepped forward slowly. She raised her chin and smiled at him, chattering on. "Brother Lu, let me tell you, a slut like her absolutely cannot be kept. Who knows whose seed is growing in her belly?" Slap. A sharp crack split the air. Everyone froze. Anyang clutched her face, staring blankly at Lu Lizhang. "Brother Lu, you." The mark of his palm glowed red on her cheek. "If I hear anyone slander my wife again," Lu Lizhang said, turning slowly to sweep his gaze over the gathered crowd, his voice calm and low, "what comes from my hand will be more than just a slap." Silenced, Lu Lizhang had always been gentle with others. Even life and death judgments crossed his face with the same cool composure. Though I'd seen him lose that composure in nightmares many times these past few months, this was the first time it had happened in front of anyone else. "Chengqing, let's go." He wrapped his arm around my shoulders and led me, step by step, away from that silent palace gate. Worried, I asked, "Lu, you?" "Chengqing." He gripped my shoulders tightly, not looking at me. His gaze was fixed ahead, as if he were walking straight into death. "Whatever happened, your husband will never let you be harmed again." Ahead stretched only silent, vermilion palace walls. Lu Lizhang and I stayed a short while at the palace. When my brother the emperor learned how I'd been humiliated, he was furious. He had already ordered every person in the drunken spring pavilion arrested for interrogation. And arrest everyone spreading vile gossip. He placed his hands on my shoulders and said earnestly, "Chengqing, rest assured, your brother will never let you suffer injustice." Gazing at my brother standing before me, I felt a sudden heat in my eyes that I clasped his hand and said, "Brother, I'm all right." Over a dozen years had passed in this deep palace. Aside from Lu Lizhang, the only person who'd ever truly cared for me was my brother. It's because I'm useless. My brother's face darkened with remorse. I've only just ascended the throne. My foundation is still fragile. When they aimed their blows at you, what they truly wanted was to trample my dignity. What they were testing was my power. Our father, the late emperor, had lived a reclusive life, forever lost in his alchemical pursuits, his body growing weaker year by year. Besides me and my brother, he had only one younger son and a handful of daughters. That infant brother died before taking a full month of life, and the Empress Dowager failed to produce any heirs. And so it was my brother, a neglected prince, whom the Dowager Empress took as her adopted son and who eventually ascended the throne. But in the end, he patted my shoulder reassuringly. "Don't worry, I'll work hard." We both survived those cruel days back then, didn't we? Now the good times have come. They can only get better. Since the day he found me in the brothel, Lu Lizhang rarely left my side. That if I stirred at night, he would wrap his arms around me and murmur, "Chengqing, don't be afraid, don't be afraid." Once he shouted in a dream, "Chengqing, don't go out there, it's dangerous." When I shook him awake, he held me for a long, long time. Even his back was soaked with cold sweat that I comforted him. "Lulu, don't be afraid, it's all in the past. All in the past." This time, Lu Lizhang didn't answer me. He stared at the quilt for a long while, as if asking himself, or someone else, is it really all in the past? I had no idea what he meant. I could only hug him tighter. That day, a great banquet was held in the palace. My brother the emperor summoned both me and Lizhang to attend. On the way, I spotted Yang. Unlike before, her face was practically shouting smug. She called out to me from a distance, "Oh my, isn't this Princess Songming?" Why? If it weren't for the palace plaques, I would have thought this was the house of drunken spring. The moment she spoke, a cluster of noble women hid their smiles behind their sleeves. Whispered words swirled around us. How utterly embarrassing. She still has the nerve to show her face. I heard in drunken spring she was all ready. I had grown long accustomed to such idle gossip. Even before all this trouble, some in the palace called me a wild brat. The palace is a nest of scandal. I stopped letting these people's foul words bother me long ago. That I tugged Lu Lizhang's sleeve. "Lulu, let's go. Pay them no mind." Lu Lizhang stepped forward slowly. Yang tilted her head up at him, still grinning, and prattled on. "Brother Lu, you must get rid of a slut like this. Who knows whose seed that is in her belly?" Smack. A crisp sound rang through the air. Everyone on the scene froze. Yang clutched her cheek, staring blankly at Lu Lizhang. "Brother Lu, you..." 5 vivid finger marks stood out on her face. "If I ever hear anyone else speak against my wife..." Lu Lizhang's gaze swept slowly around the silent crowd. His voice was flat and cold. "Lu will not stop at a mere slap." Silence heavy as stone. Lu Lizhang had always treated people with calm courtesy. Even life and death decrees he delivered in that same mild manner. Though I had seen him startle awake from nightmares many times these past months, in front of others, this was the first. "Chengqing, come." He wrapped an arm around my shoulders and walked step by step away from those soundless palace gates. Worried, I began, "Lulu, you..." "Chengqing." He held my shoulders, not looking at me, but ahead, as if walking towards certain death. Slowly he spoke. "No matter what, your husband will never let you come to harm." Before us, the endless, silent walls of the palace. 44 Lu Lizhang, and I took up temporary residence in the palace. When my brother learned of my disgrace, he was furious. He had already ordered everyone in Drunken Spring to be seized and interrogated. Arrest every single one of those rumor-mongers. He grasped my shoulders and said, word by word, Chung Chung, rest assured, your brother will never let you suffer wrong. Looking at him, my eyes grew hot that I held his hand. Brother, I'm all right. In the deep palace, years had passed like a blink. Aside from Lu Lizhang, the only person who truly cared for me was my brother. Your brother is useless. A shadow fell over his face. Though I have ascended the throne, my footing is not yet steady. Their attack on you is really an attack on my faith to probe into my power. Our father's line was sparsely blessed. Because he was obsessed with alchemy, he ruined his health. Besides me and my brother, he had only one younger son and a few daughters. That infant brother died not long after birth, and the Empress Dowager bore no heirs. Thus, it was my brother, long neglected, whom the Dowager took as her adopted son, who eventually came to the throne. But deep down, he patted my shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry. Brother will work hard that we survived those terrible times before. Didn't we? Now that times are better, they can only get better. Back then, because my mother, the consort, was favored by father, both my brother and I were seen as threats by the Empress Dowager. Our days were truly miserable. Being forced to kneel without food was routine. My brother would hide flatbreads inside his robes to bring to me. The heat would leave his skin red and raw, yet he'd laugh and hiss through his teeth, saying, this one's stuffed with meat. For you, I'll eat the vegetable one. The most dangerous time was when our mother was punished, and I talked back to the Empress Dowager. I was sentenced to 30 strokes. 30 strokes. For a child of 5, that was enough to kill. Father was away. I endured 2 blows before I howled like a dying animal. Our mother was pinned down by several maids, unable to move. Weeping, my brother threw himself on top of me and clenched his teeth. Don't hit my sister. Hit me. Then we both lay in bed for over 10 days that I cried myself nearly to death. He grinned through gritted teeth and comforted me. Look on the bright side. Now we don't have to go to the academy. Even now, his left leg drags a little when he walks to Tio me. My brother is not just a brother, he is more like a father. He held my hand and said, you have only this one brother. Your happiness matters more than anything. After taking leave of him, I strolled alone through the Imperial Garden. Lately, I'd felt something was off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. I kept feeling that Lu seemed to know certain things. Once I asked him, and he told me, heaven's secrets cannot be revealed. If I speak, you will come to harm. What kind of secret would put me in danger if spoken aloud? Walking through the long covered gallery, I saw Lu Lizhang standing in a garden nook, along with Sima Chao. Before them knelt a young palace maid, weeping pitifully. What was going on? I was about to call out, when Lu Lizhang suddenly spoke. Drag her out. Cane her to death. 45. The little maid's face went paper white. She was rather pretty. Even weeping, she still looked pitifully delicate. Have mercy, Lord Left Chancellor. Mercy. This slave will never dare do it again. Never again. Beside him, Sima Chao was also indignant. Lu Lizhang, aren't you being too ruthless? She only bumped into you and broke a palace lantern. How is that worth death? Lu Lizhang withdrew his sleeve, his expression indifferent. Lu's affairs are none of your concern. I came to stand beside him. Indeed, a shattered lantern lay on the ground. The maid saw me, spun around, clutched my skirt, and wailed. Save me, Your Highness the eldest princess. Save me. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Her weeping was so heartrending that I turned to Lu Lizhang. Lu, It's just a broken lantern. Why such fury? I asked the maid gently. Which palace are you assigned to? The little maid knocked her forehead on the ground, sobbing between words. This slave just entered the palace, assigned to the Hall of Mental Cultivation. Today is my first day of duty. I was to go light the lamps for His Majesty, that on the way I met the Lord Chancellor, and he suddenly stopped me, told me to kneel, and forbade me to enter the hall. This slave, in panic, I dropped. She was my brother's maid. I looked up at Lu Lizhang. It's her first day in the palace, Lulu. She was just frightened. Forgive her. But his gaze was like a blade, coldly fixed on the cowering girl. If I'm not mistaken, this maid's name was struck from the palace register half a year ago, wasn't it? Before the maid could answer, an old matron watching nearby fell to her knees, her forehead hitting the floor as she quavered. How could the Lord Chancellor possibly know? She stammered. This maid should indeed have been removed from the rolls. But so many refugees this year, and the palace, after the upheaval, was desperately short of hands, so they recruited her in. She lifted her head with a fawning smile. Lord Chancellor, truly your reach knows no bounds. To even know this. Not only was she astonished, so was I. How could Lu Lizhang, buried in affairs of state, possibly know whether an obscure maid had been struck from the register? Was he behind this? I shook my head at once. Impossible. Lulu was so busy every day. Why would he care about a single lowly maid? Drag her out. Lu Lizhang's voice came cold. She is never to come within sight of His Majesty again. The little maid was hauled out, shrieking in despair. Even Sima Chow couldn't stand it. He tugged my sleeve and muttered, Hey, ugly freak. Haven't you taken your husband to see a doctor lately? I slapped him so hard he forgot what ugly meant. And yet, this side of Lu Lizhang felt strange to me. Unfamiliar. Lulu. I stepped close and tugged his sleeve, choosing my words carefully. Are you troubled by something? Can't you tell me? 46 Lu Lizhang said nothing. After a long pause, he patted my hand and said, Chung Chung, one day you will understand. Fool that I am. What could I ever understand? In the days that followed, Lulu grew stranger and stranger. He locked himself in his room, often poring over documents late into the night. On his desk, he wrote peculiar dates and names, arranged them in rows, connected them with lines, then crossed out certain ones. I stole a look at those names. They were all local officials. Every single one of them had been impeached by Lu Lizhang and subsequently dismissed. I knew Lulu was working on something important, but whatever it was, I wasn't meant to know. He slept later and later, as if wrestling some unseen force. Every time I woke in the dead of night, I'd find him hunched over, studying by lamplight. Then, on the day of my brother's birthday feast, he suddenly said to the emperor, Your Majesty, regarding the floods in Shannon, I believe that in addition to releasing disaster relief funds, we should deploy troops to guard the mountain passes and prevent bandits from looting and harming the people. He paused, then added, Furthermore, the relief itself should not be too generous. It would be better to distribute chaff rice instead of coin. We had only learned of the Shannon floods a few days earlier. At the time, my brother had ordered the treasury opened wide and as much aid sent as possible. I had even donated a great portion of my treasured jewelry and gold. My brother hesitated. Deploying troops is not difficult, but the relief? Lu Lizhang replied, Your Majesty, between silver and chaff rice, which do you think will most likely reach the hands of the victims? 47 Lu Lizhang's judgment proved correct. Soon after, news of triumph arrived from Shannon. Just as he predicted, bandits had been lying in wait at the mountain passes all along. Moreover, Corrupt officials in Shannon were caught red-handed because chaff rice was sent instead of silver. Even more common folk survived. The people of Shannon were overflowing with gratitude toward the court, but my brother was overjoyed and rewarded Lu Lizhang with a mountain of gifts. That was the first time I saw Lu Lizhang smile since the brothel. His eyes glistened, as if some great task had been accomplished. Sima Chao had also earned some merit this time. When he saw Lu Lizhang, he wasn't quite as cocky as before, though his face still held its usual smugness. Look, there might be old grudges between us, but I've got to admit, you really have skill. He tossed 2 rag dolls at me gruffly and scratched his head. I'm not saying I brought these for you. Those disaster victims I helped gave them to me as thanks that I don't play with dolls, so they're yours. By now, my belly was huge. Counting the months, I was almost 8 months along. Only 2 more months until the baby came to Lu Lizhang grew busier, but he seemed more at ease now. No more nightmares at night. Every day, he racked his brains over names for the child, arranged for a wet nurse, and saw to every detail himself. Except when I bathed, he would follow me everywhere, and even then he tried once, until I blushed crimson and scolded him away. I'll be waiting in our room, he said, reluctant as I left. See you soon. You lecher. I laughed as I cursed him, then stepped alone into the dressing chamber. The moment I pushed through the bathroom door, a blade was pressed against my throat. 48-inch. Who's there? Your favorite. In the faint moonlight, it was indeed that twisted, exquisite face of Shun Liang that I opened my mouth to call for help. But he pulled me into his arms and clamped a hand over my mouth. Scream, and I'll strip you bare right here. Let everyone see. I glared at him furiously. What do you want? Haven't you ruined me enough already? Shun Liang even had the nerve to look wronged. Don't worry. Every man who laid eyes on you that day, I killed them all. I gave a cold laugh. Oh, should I thank you then? If not for you, I'd never have ended up in that place. Even as I said it, a shiver ran through me, and no wonder that day he'd fixed those men with that dark, heavy stare. He'd been memorizing their faces just so he could hunt them down later. Shun Liang crouched before me, looking for all the world like a kicked puppy. I had no choice, but I promise you, this is the last time I'll ever put you in danger. I drew a shaky breath. Who are you, really? He tilted his head, a grin narrowing his eyes. The heir to the Hu tribe. I sucked in a sharp breath. So you did do this to get revenge on Lu? Not exactly. He shrugged. My mother's clan never treated me well anyway. Lu Lizhang betrayed them. I should be thanking him. What kind of deranged lunatic was he? Seeing my look of pure disgust, Shun Liang only smiled, completely unbothered. To be honest, your imperial brother is a terrible emperor. For the sake of my people, I'm just here to stir the waters a bit. Give destiny a little push. His tone turned lazy. Deshang is going to fall. It's only a matter of time. You're lying. I was so angry my face burned. My brother just settled the Shannon disaster. Things are finally improving. Shun Liang didn't argue. Instead, with an amused glint, he asked, who says the Shannon refugees have been settled? I froze. I'll give credit where it's due. Lu Lizhang has real skill. He rooted out the corrupt officials and pushed through new policies. But none of that can save Deshang. The throne simply isn't in your brother's fate. And no matter what Lu Lizhang does, as long as your brother wears the crown, Deshang is doomed. I glared at him, seething. He didn't flinch, only leaned in with that same insufferable smile. Here's the truth. Some of the bandits have already made contact with the Hu tribe. Under cover of the chaos, they've slipped right up to the capital. My teeth clenched. Why are you telling me all this? No special reason. He shrugged, just giving you fair warning. Before he could say another word, rapid footsteps sounded outside. Chung Chung. Lu Lijong's anxious voice cut through. Chung Chung. In the same instant, Shun Liang's hand slammed into the back of my skull. Everything went black. 49. I dreamed again that I in the dream. I looked straight at Lu Lizhang and said, each word a stone. If not for you, my brother would still be alive. De Shang would never have fallen. From this day forward, night after night, you will live in guilt. Every single day, you will be alone, scheming, never knowing peace or a good end. I saw his face twist with despair. He was shouting something at me. I tried desperately to comfort him, to tell him none of it was real, but the version of me in the dream didn't hesitate. She walked directly into the flames. How could this be happening? I screamed myself awake, but when my eyes opened, it wasn't darkness that met them. Lu Lizhang sat at the bedside, his back to me, motionless. Under the lonely lamplight, his shadow stretched long and thin. Lu. He didn't respond, just sat there. Blankly, Lu. I called again. What's wrong? Only after I called a few more times did he finally turn. When he did, I found myself staring into a pair of faintly red-rimmed eyes. What happened? I scrambled up and wrapped my arms around his head, stroking his hair. Lu. What's the matter? Why are you so upset? Chung Chung. His voice came out strangled. No matter what I do, I can't change anything. He clutched me and wept. Hot tears streamed down, searing where they fell against my skin. Chung Chung. What am I supposed to do? 50 The Shannon refugees had returned. They seized Weihu Mountain near the capital, killing and pillaging. Fortunately, the attack was discovered swiftly and the damage remained limited. My imperial brother consoled Lu Lizhang, telling him not to take it too hard. But Lu Lizhang only grew quieter. He handled state affairs in silence, moved through the palace in silence. Now I never knew where he was going. Whenever I asked, he would only say, Chung Chung, don't worry that I won't do anything wrong. He would hold me, patting my back gently. We'll always be together, Chung Chung, always. I didn't understand what was happening to him. All I could do was let him go about his work and tell him over and over that I would never leave him. He said nothing, only gripping my hand even tighter. And so the days passed, one by one. Then came the day my imperial brother summoned me to the palace. He seized my hands, beaming. Your brother has finally found the love of his life? Chung Chung, you must come. You absolutely must. The banquet was extravagantly luxurious. The vague unease settled in my stomach. When I questioned my brother, he only said, I've suffered enough all these years. I won't let you honor suffer the way I did. He raised his voice toward a richly dressed, alluring figure. You honor. In the slanting evening light, the figure slowly turned around. My eyes flew wide. 51. It was the same little palace maid Lu Lizhang had thrown out of the palace. Now standing there in sumptuous robes and an elaborate coiffure, all smiling grace. My brother was delighted. This is the woman who saved my life during the hunt. Chung Chung, you must treat her well. I stammered some vague reply and gulped down grape juice to hide my shock. Seductress, Sima Chow muttered in my ear. That little maid is dangerous. She's been using His Majesty's favor to wheedle official posts for all her relatives. And those blockheads, he said with a click of his tongue, are as stupid as they come. They've turned the court into a complete cesspool. When did you learn all this court gossip? I whispered. He cracked melon seeds. Young master here has been a hero of merit lately with plenty of idle time. Always dining at palace banquets. Of course I know everything. I needled him. Oh, weren't you the same young master who once pined for by Xinlu? He scratched his head. That was then. After I learned what she did behind the scenes, I stopped liking her. Besides, she's gone back now. I won't be seeing her anymore. Bai Xinlu had gone back? For some reason, my heart fluttered with unease. Nothing felt simple, though I couldn't put my finger on why. Just as I was spacing out, that palace maid. No, she was Lady Li now. Approached me with a wine cup in hand. Smiling, she said, "Your Royal Highness, long time no see. That I trust you've been well." I laughed awkwardly. Not well. Not well at all. Far too unwell today. Ha ha ha. I must have eaten too much at breakfast. Farewell, Lady Li, farewell. I shot Sima Chow a look and we turned to bolt. Please, why would I stick around to get backstabbed? It was my husband who had her expelled in the first place. Sure enough, the moment my back turned, Lady Li began to sob. My brother immediately flooded with sympathy and glared at me. Chung Chung, what are you doing? Inger is timid. Don't you dare bully her. Tossing aside his own family for a lover. Clearly, it ran in the blood. Once I'd finally shaken Lady Li off, I rubbed my aching lower back and took a side path toward home, planning to change and slip out of the banquet altogether. I hadn't seen Lu all day. Before the feast he'd said he was feeling unwell, and if my brother hadn't insisted I come meet his beloved, I would have stayed to look after him. I walked quickly, pushing through the little garden, when a voice rang out behind me. Tell the Khan, everything is in place. I froze. 52 in the dim moonlight. I could have recognized that figure with my eyes closed, and standing opposite him, dressed in palace attire, was Bai Xinlu. Bai Xinlu wore a maid's uniform. She lowered her voice. Brother Lu, this time you won't go back on your word, will you? Lu Lizhang said nothing. After a long pause, he spoke slowly. Don't worry that I've already given you the map of the palace. What is there to fear? This whole time, they've trusted me completely. The arrangements inside the palace are 9/10 finished, rest assured. Impossible, impossible. Lulu had promised me. Everything was supposed to be getting better. How could he do this? Bai Xinlu was overjoyed. She couldn't stop herself from grasping Lu Lizhang's hand. Then we'll fix the date for the 15th of August. On that night, someone will come to meet us. Together, inside and out. August 15th. I stepped backward. A twig snapped with a sharp crack. Who's there? Almost at the same instant, a throwing knife grazed my cheek and embedded itself in the pillar behind me. Bai Xinlu called out, Someone is here. Her footsteps approached, but Lu Lizhang checked her. It's nothing, just a cat. Leave quickly. This is the palace. Don't attract suspicion. I pressed my hand over my mouth, leaning against the wall, barely daring to breathe. How could this be? Was I dreaming? Bai Xinlu seemed to hesitate. After a moment, the soft scuff of her footsteps drifted away and faded. I stayed pressed against the wall, hand over my mouth, and in my terrified eyes I saw the hem of a robe. Lu Lizhang stood before me, reaching out a hand. Chungqing. 53 Lu Lizhang locked me away, and no matter how much I begged or pleaded, he would not open the door even a finger's width. Chungqing, take care and rest for the child's sake. His voice came muffled through the door. Don't go outside. If you go out, you'll get caught up in trouble. What trouble? I pounded on the door. Lulu, don't do anything foolish. There's still time. His voice was very small. He said, It's too late. I don't know what happened after that. Shut in my room day after day. I only knew that something was happening outside, but I never knew the specifics. The maids who brought my meals were all strangers, and no matter what I asked, they remained silent. I tried to break out. I tried writing letters to Lu Lizhang. Every one of them was sent back. The seals told me he hadn't even opened them, and my unease grew heavier. Heavier still. Until that day, when a guard pushed open my door and said, His Majesty has passed. 54. My belly was huge by then. I don't know how long I was confined. All I knew was that when Lu Lizhang next walked in, he wore a dragon robe. People said he led the Khan's forces into the palace, and then killed them on the spot. A scheme within a scheme, a plot within a plot. He kept me in a side hall, paging through memorials day after day, and forced me to watch. Again and again I asked him, "Where is my brother?" He didn't answer. I hurled a memorial at his head. The edge cut his forehead. Blood trickled down his cheek. Even with a face as fine as jade, the high imperial crown, the blood running down his skin, he was still so handsome, so painfully handsome. He said, "Your brother cannot be emperor. If I hadn't overthrown him, someone else would have." His eyes were ice when he said that. "And if he can't, you can?" I grabbed whatever was near and threw it at him. "He's my brother. He trusted you so completely. Listened to your every word. I couldn't forget what my brother had said that night. He had meant to govern with all his strength. He wanted to live. More than anyone. He wanted to live. That he was my only family in this world. My vision spun. I remembered that day in the palace. My brother holding my hand and saying, "Life will get better soon. Your brother may not be learned, may not be much use, but I will make sure my little sister lives the rest of her life safe and sound. That, I promise you." My sight blurred. Images whirled before me. Someone came to support me. I shook them off. They came again, repeating by my ear, "Chung Chung, are you all right?" Lu Lizhang's scent washed over me, and I heard his voice break again. "Summon the imperial physician, quickly. Lu Lizhang, tell me." I clutched his sleeve, forcing the words out. "Is there something you dare not say? What are you afraid of? My brother. Where is he?" Through my fading vision, I saw Lu Lizhang's fragile face. He said, "Your brother isn't dead." If I didn't do this, Chung Chung, you would die." I tried so many ways, but nothing worked. Nothing worked. Chung Chung, I only want you to live. Tio live well. Why would I die? I don't know if it was a hallucination, but in that instant I saw tears of blood well up in Lu Lizhang's eyes. Before I could ask, a violent pain wrenched my lower belly. My eyes rolled back, and I collapsed into darkness. 55 I gave birth. On the 13th day of the 9th month. The next day, Lu Lizhang ascended the throne. As soon as the child was born, he had the baby taken away. Lying in bed, too weak, I stretched out my hand, but he only said, "Chung Chung, you should rest well." Rest? For what? Every day he still reviewed memorials in my room. At first, he just reviewed them. Later, he made me read over them too. When I resisted, he said, "Then you will never see the child. It's your child too." My eyes reddened as I stared at him. Lu Lizhang, even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. Don't make me despise you. He averted his eyes, refusing to meet my gaze. "Finish reviewing these memorials, and I'll let you see him." Before I was even out of my lying-in month, I was bent over a desk with him. The realm that had once shone so brilliantly in my father's hands was now scarred and broken, ravaged by war and famine. How had it come to this? The great dynasty has long since rotted away. Your brother was never fated to be emperor. Lu Lizhang spoke evenly. He was kind-hearted, but too hesitant. A good man, but not a ruler. Hunched over the desk, I could barely speak. "Let him go. Let him live. Take the realm that we don't want it. I only have my brother as family. Grant him his life. If you fear him rising in revolt, have him watched. Send him back to the fields. Let him be a commoner as long as he's safe." He looked away. "That's not for you to decide." A rush of blood filled my throat, and I broke into violent coughing over the desk. Mingyue supported me and said, worried, Your Majesty, The princess has just given birth. Could she not rest a little? Since I was imprisoned, only Mingyue had been left to attend me. Liu Lizhang dismissed everyone else and ordered them never to come near me. Who gave you permission to call her princess? Lu Lizhang said coolly. The previous dynasty has fallen. She is no longer a princess. He glanced at me, my eyes filled with hatred. Something unreadable flickered in his gaze, then settled back into calm. Every day, you will review these memorials. After you finish, I will check them. If I'm not satisfied, your maid will suffer the punishment instead. I shouted at his retreating back. Why are you doing this? He paused. A number of senior ministers from the former dynasty remained. To command their service, I need a proper, unassailable reason. I buried myself in work until deep into the night. Bird's nest, shark's fin, an endless stream of tonic delicacies arrived. But Lu Lizhang would not allow me to rest. How many times I fainted at that desk, only to be shaken awake again by Mingyue's tears. Countless memorials passed from my hands to Lu Lizhang, then came straight back, covered in corrections and pointed questions. I told you long ago, Lu Lizhang is no good man. The night was cool as water. Shun Liang, who had slipped in without my noticing, hung upside down from a roof beam, watching me. That's exactly why I won't work with him. I don't dare to partner with anyone whose mind runs so deep and so dark. He's no good man, and neither are you. I didn't raise my head. True, I'm not a good man. Shun lounged against the beam, arms crossed, a trace of a smile glinting in his exquisite glass lattice eyes. But I am willing to work with you, help you seize the kingdom back. Do you really not remember me? 56 I grew up under Taoist Master Jinghui in the mountains. Life there was free and unrestrained, but I had nothing. Only, when I was 6, I met a grubby little monkey in the hills. That little monkey wore tattered clothes, and I played with it every day. You're that monkey? I said slowly. Shun Liang stared. What monkey? You've been treating me as a monkey all along. Back then, I'd never actually seen a real monkey. I'd only heard that monkeys resemble people, so I genuinely believed anything that didn't talk was a monkey. I even rode on his head, throwing my weight around, pretending to be the most celebrated courtesan in the pleasure quarter, making him cheer for me, and shoveling all the pastries I hated into his hands as rewards. Shun Liang's eyes still held a trace of nostalgia. When I was a child, because of my mother, I was left abandoned deep in the wilderness. No one paid me any attention. Only you were willing to play with me. Only you cared about my dignity. Even when you gave me food, it was through a game. That's how you kept me alive. That I knew then that you were a good person. I studied him in silence as he went on. Later, my father sent people to bring me back, before I could even say goodbye to you. The day I disguised myself as a refugee and entered the city, I saw you. That I recognized you the very first instant. His eyes gleaming, he said, if you are willing, I can help you. Help you take back the kingdom. Your heart is purer than Lu's, braver than your imperial brothers. You are the one best suited to hold the reins of the great Chang. Footsteps sounded outside. Someone was approaching. With a light leap, Shun Liang caught the beam again, those glass eyes brimming with laughter. I'm going now, little Gu Cheng. The day you make up your mind, I will come again. With that, he flipped away like a hawk in the night and vanished into the darkness. 57 I always felt that Lu Lizhang had reasons he could not speak of, but he refused to tell me what they were. He said my imperial brother was still alive, and I chose to believe him. The memorials I revised came back with fewer corrections by the day. Finally, Lu Lizhang told me I could visit my child. That I dashed to Qihua Palace. Mingyue stumbling after me, nearly flying through the doors. The child was nearly 3 months old, and I still had never seen him. I'd prepared so many gifts. Whenever I wasn't correcting memorials, I'd been embroidering little belly bands for him. That I burst into the palace to see a woman standing by the window, a swaddled infant in her arms, teasing him with a rattle drum. Sunlight fell on his plump little face, so lovely in the folds of silk. My eyes burned hot. Softly, I called, "Baby. Mama's here. Mama's come to see you." The woman by the window started at the voice, then turned around in the autumn sunlight, a smile full of sweetness. "Eldest princess, you've arrived." She stroked the child's cheek and, as if gently scolding him, said to me, "Changyin has been waiting such a long time for you." I froze where I stood. Beside me, Mingyue lost control of her voice. "By Xinlu. How can it be you?" 58 It was by Xinlu, whom I had not seen in a long time, dressed in sumptuous robes, holding my child and smiling at me from the window. She gave a little start, as if suddenly remembering, and covered her mouth. "Oh dear, I forgot. You are no longer the eldest princess. Gu Cheng. Come see your child. By the way, do you know his name? He is called Chengyin. That name. His Majesty and I chose it together. Put him down." My eyes nearly burst from their sockets. "Who gave you permission to hold him?" "Put down whom?" Bai Xinlu patted the swaddled infant gently, her smile bright. "Him? That won't do. He is my son." "What did you say?" Mingyue rushed forward in fury. You brought ruin to the eldest princess's entire family, and now you want to seize her child. Have you no human decency left? No one has told you." Bai Xinlu patted the child in her arms, her voice soft but her eyes shooting venomous light. "This is Brother Lu's child, so naturally he cannot be killed. But you are nothing but a whore left over from a fallen dynasty. What makes you worthy to be the mother of Brother Lu's firstborn son?" The night rain poured like a torrent. That was the first time I went to see Lu Lizhang after his treason. Rainwater dripped from my hair, but I didn't notice that I stumbled and staggered my way into the depths of the palace. When I stormed in, he was still holding court. That I charged straight through, wrenched a guard's blade free, and laid it against his throat. The courtiers erupted in panic. "Protect the sovereign! Protect the sovereign!" Dozens of swords surrounded me, all aimed at my chest. Lu Lizhang did not look surprised. He waved his hand. "All of you leave." "Why?" I stared at him, forcing the words out one at a time. "Why would you do this to my child?" My brother and I had both grown up under the Empress Dowager. No one knew better than I what a child suffers when raised by a woman who is not its real mother. And this was a woman like Bai Xinlu. No reason. Lu Lizhang's gaze on me was indifferent. "This is simply the way the world works. The strong devour the weak. Do you think I won't kill you?" I pressed the blade further into his neck, my eyes red as blood. "All this time, even knowing you were a rebel, I believed you hadn't killed my brother. I believed you had some hidden pain. And now, what is this?" "Gu Cheng." Lu Lizhang pinched the tip of my blade between his fingers, threads of blood trickling down. "This child should never have existed in the first place." 59 I was thrown into death row. This death row was nothing like the one I'd once shared with Lu Lizhang. Everything was filthy, stinking, rats scurrying across the floor, but I no longer cared. That I sat in my cell, hugging my knees, staring at the moon through the grate. "You, young miss, are a person of great fortune." A sigh came from the neighboring cell. Following the moonlight, I saw an old man seated cross-legged in the opposite cell. His white hair brushed the ground, his clothes in tatters, but his eyes still blazed with spirit. Stroking his beard, he studied me for a long while before speaking. Strange, a fate that should have been cut short, turned into one of the highest honor. How extraordinary. Me, I gave a bitter laugh. Am I not still facing a violent death? A kingdom destroyed, a husband turned traitor, my one child about to call a viper its mother. Living like this might be more agonizing than dying. The old man shook his head. The violent death is not yours. The one who defies heaven and alters fate. That person meets a violent end. I hugged my legs and sat in the cell, watching the moon. Never had I felt so utterly alone. Long, long ago, my mother had the emperor's favor, and the empress dowager, out of jealousy, claimed that her child would bring her misfortune. That was why I was sent away from the palace. The mountains had been so lonely then, the moon so round, so bright. But I thought of my mother, of my brother in the palace, certain that sooner or later we would meet. Later I married Lu Liz Hang. I once believed my destiny could never improve. He despised me. That I thought I would spend my whole life chasing after him, never once seeing him turn back. Then he said he loved me, said he would never betray me. Those days felt like a dream, too beautiful to contemplate. I'd survived. Through my brother's coronation, through Lu Liz Hang falling in love with me, through carrying my child. I believed at last that everything would be all right, that I had believed everything would finally be all right. How had my life become this bitter? So bitter my own mouth tasted astringent. So you did end up in here. A familiar voice came from the cell door. I stayed crouched on the ground, hugging my knees, refusing to move. Sima Chow crouched down until he was level with my eyes. After a moment's hesitation, he sat down beside me. He and I watched the moon together. He said, My father is dead too. I didn't move, he said, but I survived. If I had died, the entire Sima clan would be gone too. He leaned against me. None of that earlier youthful swagger left, he said. How did it come to this? I thought it would always be this easy, that my father would stay young forever, that your brother the emperor would reign forever, and that I would just live on, carefree, without a worry. He rambled on for a long time. He said Lu Liz Hang had changed completely. After taking power, he had turned tyrannical, executing several officials in quick succession. Officials who had once followed him. He had issued countless decrees, each stirring resentment among local magistrates. They detested him. Some even wanted to overthrow him. He talked and talked that I couldn't hear much of what else he said. Only his final words registered. I hate Lu Liz Hang. Just as he was leaving the cell, he turned back. Oh, right. Your brother the emperor and the child, both dead. I turned my head woodenly toward him. In his pupils I saw my own face. Numb and beyond despair. It didn't look like my face at all. There were no tears. It looked like a dog's face, blankly registering as Sima Chow said. Executed by slow slicing. 1 cut at a time, 1,000 cuts. 60. I told the prison guard I wanted to see Lu Liz Hang. I said I had something important to tell him. He sent word up, and permission came quickly. I was taken out of death row and sent to bathe and dress. It had been so long since anyone had helped me wash. When I saw Lu Liz Hang, he was still annotating memorials. He didn't seem surprised to see me. As I entered, his brush never stopped moving across the paper. I sat down across from him. I couldn't remember the last time I had done so. Maybe the last time was when I was pregnant. Back then I had sat in the same place and whined at him. Oh, this little thing inside me is so demanding. Look, it says it wants to eat that roast pork again. He just smiled helplessly and popped a grape into my mouth. Fine, I will go eat, whatever you say. Now, without even raising his head, he asked coldly, What are you here for? What was I here for? I asked him. My imperial brother is dead, isn't he? His gaze shifted from the memorial to my face. Yes. A growing commotion stirred outside, footsteps echoing ceaselessly through the palace. Neither of us paid it any mind that I looked at him and asked, "The child is dead too, isn't he?" He said, "Yes." I let out a laugh, then kept laughing, louder and louder, as though I could laugh out every last shred of misery from these past days. That I asked him, "Why? Why do this? If you wanted to kill my brother, if you planned to betray the state, then why did you put on a show of warmth toward me before? Why? That was your child too." I lost control and hurled whatever was within reach at him. Liu Lizhang sat there like a mountain, unmoved. His gaze drifted lazily toward the window. Outside, one corner of the sky was already burning red. That child carried your blood. Keeping him alive was bound to invite disaster. I sank to the floor, crying, then laughing. I said, "Zhang, look, fate has never let me off. My brother, who had been like a father to me, dead my newborn child, dead my lover, turned executioner of them all. What a brilliantly tragic life I've led." The clash of swords and the sound of marching grew louder outside. He set his brush down and looked at me. The lamplight pooled across the floor, settling on him, lighting his gentle face and the white hairs sprouting at his temples. The sound of iron horses and bronze spears rose up from beyond the hall. That I didn't lift my head. Liu Lizhang didn't lift his ass if he already knew what was happening outside, he said. He and I watched the moon together, he said. My father is dead too. I didn't move, he said, but I survived. If I had died, the Sima clan, every one of them, would have died as well. He leaned close, all his brash, high-spirited manner gone. "How did it come to this?" he murmured. "I always thought it would stay this easy forever. My father would stay young. Your imperial brother would always be emperor, and I could just live like this, without a care, forever and ever." He rambled on for a long time. He said that Liu Lizhang had turned completely against his old self, that once he seized power, he suddenly became tyrannical. He executed several ministers, one after another. Men who had once followed him. He issued decree after decree, each one stirring resentment among local officials. They were so incensed they even wanted to overthrow him. That he said so much of it I could barely hear. That in the end, the only thing I caught clearly were his final words, "I hate Liu Lizhang." Just before he walked out, he turned back and said, "Oh, right. Your imperial brother and the child are both dead." I turned my head woodenly toward him. In his pupils I saw my own face, already so desperate it had gone numb. That face didn't seem to belong to me. It shed no tears. It was like a dog's face as I listened, without feeling, to Sima Chao say, "Lingxi, death by 1,000 cuts, slice by slice, until there was nothing left." 60. I told the prison guard I wanted to see Liu Lizhang, that I had something important to tell him. He reported my request, and it was granted almost at once. That I was taken out of death row, sent to be washed and dressed. It had been a long time since anyone had let me wash and dress. When I met Liu Lizhang, he was still reviewing memorials. He didn't seem the least surprised that I had come. As I entered, his brush never stopped moving across the papers. I sat down opposite him. I no longer remembered how long it had been since I'd last sat opposite him. The last time, I think I was pregnant. Back then I'd sit across from him and coo and whine. Ugh, this thing in my belly is so unreasonable. Look, it says it wants roast pork again. Liu Lizhang had laughed, helpless, and popped a grape into my mouth. Fine, we'll go have it. Whatever you want, I'll give you. Now Liu Lizhang didn't even lift his head. Coldly, he asked, "What are you here for?" "What are you here for?" I asked him. "My imperial brother is dead, isn't he?" His gaze moved from the memorial to my face. Yes. A faint clamor stirred outside. the sound of footsteps echoing through the halls. Neither of us paid it any attention that I held his eye. The child is dead too, isn't he? He said, yes. I burst out laughing that I don't know why, but I laughed louder and louder, as if I meant to laugh out every ounce of injustice I had swallowed during those days that I asked him, why? Why did you do this? If you wanted to kill my imperial brother, if you wanted to betray the dynasty, why did you put on that false face with me before? Why? That child was yours, too. I lost control and hurled everything my hand could grab at him. Liu Lizhang sat unmoving. His gaze drifted coolly to the outside, where one corner of the sky had already reddened with fire. A child who carries your blood. If I let him live, he'd only bring trouble later. I collapsed on the ground, weeping, then laughing again. I said, Lu, you see, fate has never once let me off. An emperor who was like a father to me, dead. A newborn child, dead. The man I loved, turned into the executioner of them all. What a brilliantly, tragically glorious life I have led. The clash of swords grew louder outside. He set down the memorial and looked at me. Light spread across the floor, over him, picking out his gentle face and the strands of white hair at his temples. The noise of iron horses and bronze spears rose beyond the hall. I didn't raise my head. Neither did Liu Lizhang if he knew exactly what was happening outside. He said, Zheng, your fate. It only begins now. He seemed like a traveler who had walked an endless road, suddenly so spent that he couldn't go any farther. He walked out from behind the gallery pillars and came before me. I was sharply aware of something different about him. Every step so light and easy. He was like a man long burdened, finally going home, or like a child making his way toward the thing he treasures most in the world. He stood before me and said, Zheng, hold me one more time. Before I could speak, he sank onto my shoulder. He leaned hard, with bottomless longing, and breathed. This is so good. He bent his head against me and said, it's been so long. I didn't move, and I let him lean there, knowing all the while that my dagger had already sunk deep into his chest. He didn't move. That he offered no resistance. It was like an embrace. He held on to me tightly, so tightly, as if he could cling to me and never let go. Outside, a world-shattering roar went up. It's done. It's done. Done. How could it be done so quickly? A trace of wrongness caught me. I lifted his face. Liu Lizhang, what have you done? His head stayed lowered. It rested heavily on my shoulder for a long, still moment. I cupped his face and raised it to look at him. So much blood was pouring from his mouth. Yet still he forced out the words, I've finally returned it all to you. I held his face and screamed, what did you do? What did you do? He didn't answer. He only held me harder, as though he wanted to press me right into his body. The last words he said to me were, Zheng, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 61 in the 45th year of the Deshang dynasty, I took the throne. Shunliang led his tribesmen into the palace. Most surrendered. Everything proceeded so smoothly. So smooth. As if someone had deliberately arranged it all to happen this way. Bai Xinlu was dead. When she died, she was still wearing her empress robes, sitting alone in Fengqi Palace. When Sima Chao and his men burst in, she was still shrieking curses at the top of her lungs. I am the Empress of Deshang. Brother Liu said it. I would be Empress. My imperial brother was not dead. When they found him, he was lying in the dungeon, but the tendons in both his hands had been severed. He would never be emperor again. But however it had turned out, the person dearest to me in this world had survived. He told me, Zheng, your brother has thought it through. Deshang in my hands would have fallen apart sooner or later. Like a man grown old and brittle overnight, he said, Lu Lizhang dressed a condemned rapist and murderer, a man who'd violated and killed dozens of women, in my likeness, and had him executed by 1,000 cuts in the public square. To this world, Emperor Shun is dead. The realm is yours now. My brother retired to the Jiangnan region to spend the rest of his days. Before he left, he turned back to look at me. He hesitated a moment, then seemed to sigh. Actually, Lu Lizhang was not what you think he was toward you. I don't know what went through my mind then. Only that my brain felt wrapped in fog that I took over state affairs quickly. Because Lu Lizhang had forced me to review memorials with him, I already knew something of Deshang's governance. I didn't take any male favorites, that I devoted myself entirely to raising Cheng Yan. Gu Cheng Yan. Lu Lizhang had hidden him in a very safe place, guarded by death-sworn warriors. When he was found, he was still sleeping peacefully in his cradle. Cheng Yan was bright and sensible. His eyes were like Lu Lizhang's, his nose like mine, that he was heartbreakingly beautiful, and his temperament was brimming with irrepressible life. He could chat with anyone. The palace maids were all charmed to blushes by him. Why did Lu Lizhang lie? Why did he keep the truth from me? No one would ever know now. Sometimes, looking at him, I would wonder, if Lu Lizhang and I had grown up beside a mother like me, what would that have been like? He would have known a love without precedent. He would never have been bullied. Maybe his nature wouldn't have turned so solitary and extreme. One day, Cheng Yan was reading by himself in the study when he pulled an odd little volume off the shelf. Its cover filled with strange characters. He trotted up and wheedled, "Mother Emperor, what's this? Why does it have your name on the cover?" I opened it. This little volume was very strange. It told the story of something that had never come to pass. Its main character was me, but the story it told was one I'd never lived. This Guzheng had suffered the fall of her nation, endured filth and defilement, and at last died in fire. This Guzheng had known no happiness. She didn't have the fate of the reigning empress. Flipping a page, I found further scattered jottings. Zheng threw up today. The child is being stubborn. Today Zheng ate 2 pieces of sour plum cake from Zhengji Ward. Must go buy more tomorrow. Page after page, I turned, until one entry stopped me. I truly wish I could see our child born. I truly wish I could raise the child together with Zheng. But there is no chance. When I can save Zheng? When can fate change? Give me more time. The entire volume was written over with that word. Fate, fate, fate. He wrote about coming from a past life, about the words of that white-robed elder, about exchanging his own life for mine. He wrote how he had forced me to harden my heart and stage the rebellion, how he had deliberately let Bai Xinlu hold our child. He said that if he didn't do this, I would never have the resolve to kill him and take his life in return. Only by killing him with my own hands could I take his life. That he had also written about the accidents I would meet in my political career, the powerful enemies I would face, and the ways to deal with them. That he knew everything, absolutely everything. With infinite, lingering love, he wrote, "How I wish I could spend a little more time with our child and with Zheng." I turned the pages one by one. I read the whole story through, and at last reached the final page. On the last page were written 2 lines. "The farthest corners of the earth have an end. Only the longing of a lovesick heart is endless." Cheng Yan looked at me curiously. "Imperial Mother, what is this?" He kept shaking my hand. That I finally stroked his hair and said, "Nothing." That night, I dreamed again. I dreamed of Lu Lizhang, whom I had not seen in so long. He stood on the edge of a cliff, smiling as he opened his arms to me. He said, "Zheng, come." It was as if he had been waiting there in loneliness for ages, waiting for me for a very, very long time. He opened his arms like a bird spreading its wings toward me. just as he had that year when Sima Chow and I went to the pleasure house to catch him with a lover, and he opened his arms and asked, "Zheng Zheng, have you come to catch your husband in the act?" The wind billowed his robes around him. His eyes were wide and bright. Tears that had been 10 years late streamed down my face at last. Extra one, I killed my wife with my own hands. She was such a foolish person. Right up to the moment of her death, she was still staring at me, saying, "Lu Lizhang, run. Run. Run from what?" The blade, still red with blood, came slicing cleanly down through her head. She gave up her last breath in an instant. The leader laughed as he said to me, My, Lord Left Chancellor, truly impressive. This princess of the fallen dynasty is still so devoted to you." Yes, devoted. She was foolish, hopelessly foolish that a fortune teller once said that I was destined to walk alone, doomed to a solitary, bitter life. That didn't matter. After my mother died, there was no one left in this world who truly cared for me. My stepmother was harsh in every way, and my father, influenced by her, only showed me a mask of cold courtesy to be why nature I was indifferent. So I never let these things trouble me. At 22, Guzheng married me. She was the most foolish person I had ever met. It was not that no woman had ever been drawn to me, but I had never had any use for any of them. Only power mattered. Only when I held power clenched in my hands did I feel the smallest measure of safety. Where in this world is there such a thing as endless selfless love? Even my own father never loved me sincerely, but she buzzed around me every single day, chattering. When I stayed silent, she would poke and tease to coax words out of me that I liked to wear plain, muted colors, so she dressed in the brightest, gaudiest shades, telling me that seeing color would lift my mood, that I liked bare, dead branches, so she stuffed them full of wild mountain flowers, beaming as she announced she was bringing spring into my cave of a room. She thought I loved Bai Xin Lu, but Bai Xin Lu and I were cut from the same cloth. We were both indifferent and selfish in matters of the heart, both scheming to the core, and both harbored a covetous hunger for power. Where would love come from between such people? Day after day, I grew used to her noisy presence. She liked to fall asleep sprawled across my desk. Even when I was cold toward her, even when I scolded her, she never took it to heart. She arranged the wildflowers she had picked all over my room, one by one, and every day she would bring over plate after plate of terrible homemade pastries. When I came back late at night, she never once grew suspicious, and no matter how late it was, she would follow me around with that same bright smile. My room had never before been so full of life. Full of life. Truly, the most extravagant and precious of mortal joys. Still, I did not truly accept her that I was full of schemes. She was utterly sincere. Until that day, outside the palace gates, when a vassal prince blocked my way and humiliated me, sneering that I only became chancellor by marrying a princess. She wrapped me tight in her arms and screamed at that vassal prince, "He's my husband. What are you trying to do, huh? If he's living off a woman, he's living off this lady. It's none of your damn business. I haven't said a word. So who the hell are you to bark like a dog here?" Protection. A kind of protection I had not felt since I lost my mother. She had no idea that this vassal prince was my secret agent, deliberately provoking me simply to stir up a commotion so that another caravan could slip past the palace gates unnoticed. She held me tightly in her arms, her own eyes red with fury. After we returned home, as she thought it over, she began to laugh. She said, "Husband, now everyone knows you're my husband. They call you a kept man because they all know you belong to me now." Then, as she laughed, she began to cry, and she said, "They know you're my person, and they still dare to bully you like this." In that moment, A sudden thought took root in me. Perhaps living a good life with someone might not be so impossible after all. But I kept my demeanor cool on the surface. The emperor of this dynasty was no good emperor. He wallowed in dissipation, favored corrupt sycophants, and doted on a wicked consort that a man unworthy of the throne must, naturally, be pulled down from it. Besides, my ambition for power did not stop there, and Gu Zheng was his sister Tio protector. I had to be careful, and even more careful that I could not allow any trace of my feelings for her to show, that I had to hide her away. Careful, and ever more careful, no one could ever find out that on the day of the coup, I locked her inside a room, that I found the corpse of a woman who had already died in the chaos, and dressed it in her clothes, that I in this way. Princess Songming was dead. Only Gu Zheng survived, that I placed her in the most secluded courtyard of the left chancellor's residence, then went to deal with state affairs. That I in victory or defeat, there was a great deal to deal with. By the time I came to my senses, Gu Zheng had vanished. I only scolded her a couple of times. Who knew she'd run off in a fit of anger? Bai Xinlu stood before me and said, "She's nothing but a dead woman now. Brother Lu, why do you even care about her?" Impossible. Impossible. I had put her in the most hidden corner. What Gu Zheng cared about most was her imperial brother. With her brother's fate still uncertain, how could she possibly have abandoned him and run away? A growing panic seized my heart, that I mobilized every shadow guard to search for her. Never in my life had I felt such terror. Luckily, she was still alive. Unluckily, the way she was living, when the shadow guards found her, she was lying in a military camp, gaze utterly empty, tucked into. Her hair was a single, glaringly bright red peony. "What are you doing here?" She stared at me, tears of blood welling up in her eyes. "Beast, what are you doing here?" I stood frozen, staring at her lying there in a filthy state, covered in dirt and worse. Her eyes were blood red as she screamed at me. "What are you doing here? Beast, I was wrong to trust you." She hurled everything within reach at me, striking my body, my face. Her voice rasped with shrieks. "If it weren't for you, my imperial brother would still be alive. Our great Cheng would not have fallen. All of this is your fault." The one person in this world who had ever loved me was gone. Only then did I feel a pain that cut straight through to the marrow, that I gave the order to kill Bai Xinlu. But she didn't care at all. She just watched me with a cold sneer, that I executed the soldiers who had violated her, one by one, that she paid it no mind, only sneering that I buried her brother with the highest honors. She said nothing, merely shut her eyes, turned her back, and slept. "Don't waste your efforts on me." Late one night, she said, "You're only doing this for your own reputation. For something so trivial, there's no need to go to all this trouble." For the first time in my life, I said to her, I was wrong. I told her about my life, about my childhood and youth without love, about the loneliness of my heart. That I said to her, "From now on, you are the only one I have left. Please forgive me." She was silent for a moment, then burst into wild laughter, tears crawling all over her face. She hit me, shoved me, clung to me, bit me, as if possessed. That night was the only night we lay down to sleep side by side after what she had suffered. She gave me a tenderness I had not felt in so long, that I thought I had found my redemption, but I never imagined it was how she had learned to take the most exquisite revenge. Deep in the night, I woke to the glare of fire. The eastern wing was burning. To be why the time I reached it, the flames had turned the whole building a blazing red. She stood in the courtyard, torch in hand, laughing madly. That a large red peony was pinned in her hair, and she wore a long red gown, gorgeous and ghastly as a demon. I had never seen her dressed like this. She looked straight at me, word by deliberate word. "Lu Lizhang, You owe me. I will make you pay back 1,000-fold, 100-fold. Then she turned around and walked into the fire. That sweet, silly little princess was dead. From that moment on, day and night, I was tormented by nightmares. In my dreams, she wore a red peony and leaped into the sea of flames. Later, I killed the emperor and ascended the throne myself. The handful of years passed, each colder and more barren than the last. I had reached the pinnacle of power, but I felt as though I remained forever that Lu Lizhang whom no one had ever truly loved, the Lu Lizhang who had lost his mother and been forgotten by his father, who had watched his beloved die in agony. Once, on a journey, I met an old man. He stroked his beard and studied me for a long while, then said, "Supreme fortune, but a solitary end. A solitary end. A solitary end. If you wish to reverse your fate, there may yet be a way." He looked at me and said, "But to defy heaven and alter destiny is to invite a violent, untimely death. Are you willing?" Am I willing? Wealth and glory are mine for the taking, the pinnacle of power, untouched by any other hand. Am I willing? I did not answer him. I returned and spent several days handling state affairs, making sure all that needed to be settled was settled. Then, following his instructions, on a winter night, I fell into a dream. When I woke, Gu Zheng was asleep beside me. I thought I was dreaming. She opened her eyes and looked at me. "So this isn't poison?" The old Gu Zheng was back, and oh, I had gone back to the Gu Zheng who, believing I was poison, would willingly drink me down. I gave her every indulgence. I abandoned my treasonous plans and determined to prop up her foolish brother as ruler instead. I knew Gu Zheng's most sensitive spot, her useless brother, and the throne. She might play the fool, but she understood more than anyone that I didn't dare tell her about that former life. I was terrified she would leave me again. At first, everything seemed to be improving. Bai Xinlu was still in contact with people at the border. For the time being, I couldn't move against her, but I couldn't understand why, no matter how I tried to avoid them. The events of my past life kept recurring. Only sometimes sooner or later I end that former life. Zhengzheng had been thrown into a brothel and nearly violated. This time, I guarded against it with every means I had. Yet Zhengzheng still disappeared. I searched for her like a madman. For days I deployed every hidden agent, every shadow guard I possessed. I turned to underworld thugs, to foreign traders. But no matter where I looked, I couldn't find her. Then I saw her in that brothel. The man beside her, I knew him. He was the new chieftain of the Hu tribe, a man I had clashed with in my former life. But how could Zhengzheng be in a brothel? Why was she there? I set the place on fire and pulled her free. Just as we reached the threshold, someone called out her identity, and just as before, her reputation was destroyed. Why was it happening just like before? Why? And all those minor changes I had put in place, they all ricocheted back on me. Why? If events followed the course of my former life, Zhengzheng was destined to be thrown into an army camp, destined to die in agony, burned alive. How could I possibly let that happen? How could I watch her die a second time? The only difference was that she was pregnant. Zhengzheng was pregnant, carrying my child, which meant that some things could still change. I secretly sought out that old man again, crossing mountains and ridge after ridge until I found him. He didn't seem at all surprised to see me. He simply said, "To defy heaven and alter destiny is to invite a violent, untimely death. A violent, untimely death." I came home. Zhengzheng was already asleep. Her belly was large. She couldn't rest easily and wept softly. "Don't touch me, don't touch me," she cried. She wept so bitterly that I in the former life, even when those terrible things happened, she had never cried like this in front of me. Now she sobbed so brokenly, calling my name over and over. Lulu, save me. I kissed her forehead. Yes, I will save you. Zheng, I will save you. That I gave up entirely on her imperial brother. He was never fated to be emperor. I followed the path of my former life, but accelerated it. I had to change certain things. From then on, everything fell into my grasp. After placing her under house arrest, I kept her by my side day and night. Never again would I leave her alone in the Chancellor's mansion as I had before. She hated me. But rather than spare her that hatred, I would rather she live on safely and never have to suffer those horrors from a past life again. I let Xin Liang enter the palace without hindrance and used him to free Sima Zhao, but I paved a road for her with my own hands. Our child had her nose in my eyes. For the first time in my life, I felt I was not alone, that I couldn't resist fate. But I could take what destiny had given me and give it to her. That day the wind was fierce, that I knew the time had come. She wore a red dress, the same kind she had worn when she dashed into the flames in that former life. The only difference was, now I understood, she was about to begin a new chapter. I had never felt so at ease. All my life I had walked alone, toiling in a world of schemes and treachery. The only pure joy I ever had came from my time with her. Being loved without reservation, depended on without reservation, trusted without reservation. Now, I had finally repaid everything I owed her. My vision blurred after drinking that cup of tea. The sounds of swords and shouts grew louder outside, that I knew my final moment had come. In a daze, I saw her again, running toward me, tears streaming. She was so foolish. Knowing how wicked I was, she still cried. And I was wicked too. Knowing it would break her heart, I still chose to die before her eyes, so that she would remember me. Remember me forever. That I reached out my hand toward her and took hold of hers. Her fingers gripped my hand, so tightly, never to let go. The end.